Chapter 237. Disciple is ready. Xiao Yan said very seriously. Lin Feng nodded his head. Pack up, we're getting ready to leave. Xiao Yan asked, Master wants to go with me? Lin Feng smiled unconcernedly saying, Master definitely won't interfere with the arranged battle between you and Murong Yenran, but if that Celerita's sword sect has any other thoughts, Master will teach them what the rules are. His words sounded nice, but actually Lin Feng's true thoughts in his heart were like this. Face slapping, the legendary counterattack stomping face slapping. I can't not watch this kind of show. Lin Feng only felt the fire of gossip in his heart burning fiercely. Back then when he took in Xiao Yan as a disciple, he had always been looking forward to the day when he could become a powerful spectator. As for the Celerita's sword sect and whatnot, in front of the one who counterattacks and slaps face slapping, that's like floating clouds. He just needs to be a good background board for them. Xiao Yan chuckled saying, just from the fact that they sent people to Wuzhou City with Murong Yenran that day, you can know what the Celerita's sword sect is thinking. The Celerita's sword sect's cloud traversing peak is in the southeast part of the Great Qin dynasty, right? The little guy suddenly seemed to have thought of something, turning his head to look at Tunten and asked, I remember you said that in the southeast part of the Great Qin, there's a kind of demon snake whose meat is very delicious. Tunten nodded his head, licking his lips with an expression of endless aftertaste. Jade cloud-horned snake, the taste is pretty good. The little guy made a sound of acknowledgement, arriving in front of Xiao Yan and said seriously, eldest senior brother, I'll go with you. If that Murong Yenran's fellow disciples want to act shamelessly and gang up on you, I can lend you a hand. Get lost. Xiao Yan said crossly, if you want to go catch demon beasts to eat then just say it, don't use such a high-sounding pretense. The little guy was not annoyed, chuckling and said, mainly to cheer for eldest senior brother, everything else is just in passing. Lin Feng chuckled as he shook his head. He was the standard type of person who enjoyed watching a show. Bringing along Tunten and the rest was nothing. Zhu Yi stayed on the mountain to teach the new disciples, while Wang Lin and Yang Qing wholeheartedly cultivated. Other than Xiao Budian, Lin Feng also brought Yu Hongyan along. Yu Hongyan was different from Yang Qing. She was not suitable for closed-door cultivation. In a sense, actual combat could help her improve and break through. Xiao Budian looked at Xiao Yan and was suddenly lost in thought. After a long while, he suddenly turned his head and said to Lin Feng, Master, after eldest brother's matter is settled, I want to go find my parents. Lin Feng nodded and said, I paid attention to the news of your parents earlier, but they never returned to your Shi clan, and there's still no news of them after so many years. The biggest possibility is that they are staying in a different space, so there's no news of them. Xiao Budian opened his eyes wide, and his eyes were filled with worry. Master, Lin Feng smiled slightly, don't worry, there's something you might not know. All the disciples of your Shi clan who are above the golden elixir period will leave behind a life lamp in the clan's ancestral hall, establishing a connection with their own soul. As long as the soul is not extinguished, the life lamp will not extinguish. Your father betrayed the clan for you, but your Shi clan has elders who took pity on you and your father, and still kept your father's life lamp. Lin Feng continued, the latest news I received is that your father's life lamp is safe and sound. Xiao Budian heaved a sigh of relief, but there was still some worry on his face. Zhu Yi's eyes flickered, and he also said softly, Master, in about half a year, it will be the time for the Great Zhou dynasty's new Anka examination. Disciple wants to go back and participate in this examination. Don't worry, Master, Disciple will not delay the teachings of the disciples on the mountain. Lin Feng looked at him and slowly said, I've always been at ease when you do things. This examination is indeed the most suitable opportunity for you to fulfill your wish. Zhu Yi nodded, and didn't say anything more. He and Lin Feng both knew that right now Shenmen Tianzong and the Great Zhou dynasty are in the honeymoon stage. Even if it's to take care of Lin Feng's feelings, Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou won't be stingy. If Zhu Yi participates in this examination, if he can pass, he will definitely be able to help his mother, Meng Bingyun, obtain a title of nobility. With Liang Pan's imperial decree from above, the Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Hongwu will definitely obey. As for how much he can obtain, that will depend on the specific situation after Zhu Yi arrives at the Great Zhou dynasty. Before leaving, Lin Feng gave some instructions to Kang Nanhua and Miao Shihao, and then went to Wang Lin's cave. When Wang Lin saw Lin Feng arrive, he hurriedly stopped his training and paid his respects to Lin Feng. After Lin Feng waved his hand, he gave a porcelain bottle that contained pills to Wang Lin. "Master?" Wang Lin was a bit baffled. Lin Feng said, "This porcelain bottle contains the heavenly connecting pill of the Heavenly Sword sect. There are a total of 7 pills. Use them according to the situation. Even though this pill can be used many times, the medicinal effect will decrease with each use." When Wang Lin obtained the heavenly connecting pill, he didn't feel that there was any problem. Among the people of the same sect, only he is suitable to use this kind of pill. Using pills to aid cultivation, in the end, is definitely not as reliable as a cultivator's own cultivation. If the foundation is not stable enough, don't mention Xiao Yan, the little guy, and Zhu Yi, even Yang Qing and Yu Hongyan would definitely wish to rely on their own hard work when cultivating and not swallow pills. Even if they themselves were willing, Lin Feng wouldn't allow it. If it's the 33 Heavens Fortune Immortal Pill, then it's a different story. That's on a completely different level from the Heavenly Connecting Pill. After using it, there won't be any side effects at all, and the medicinal effect will be off the charts. But Wang Lin is different. Wang Lin's innate foundation is too low, and it is destined that his cultivation in the Qi cultivation and foundation building stages will be as slow as a tortoise's crawl. If others spend a day, he will need 8 to 10 days of hard work. But both his foundation and willpower have reached the maximum value, ensuring that even if Wang Lin relies on pills to raise his cultivation, he can still perfectly consolidate his originally shaky foundation and have a true auxiliary effect. If not for the fact that the effects of the heavenly connecting pill will weaken with each use, Lin Feng even planned to think of a way to mass-produce the heavenly connecting pill and use a large number of heavenly connecting pills to feed Wang Lin. So when Wang Lin obtained the heavenly connecting pill, he only thanked Lin Feng in his heart. He didn't feel that eating it alone might cause dissatisfaction among his fellow disciples. Lin Feng silently looked at Wang Lin and softly said, "Little Lin, you have a firm will, which is your strong point. Master won't say anything unnecessary, but I'll just remind you that more haste makes waste. Don't be impatient in everything." Wang Lin raised his head to look at Lin Feng, feeling as if Lin Feng's gaze could see into the bottom of his heart. The difference in strength between different opponents was not that obvious, but when everyone took turns to capture Tunten, the gap in cultivation between Lin Feng's disciples was vividly displayed. In terms of actual combat, the strongest was undoubtedly his eldest disciple, Xiao Yan, who had forcibly suppressed Tunten, who had been rebuilt from the remains of the Gung Metal Tiger King and possessed the devouring the heavens, devouring the earth, and true sun fire. The terrifying pressure brought by the fusion of the nether evil blaze and true sun fire made Kang Nanhua and Miao Shihao raise their eyebrows and scared Tunten away. Strictly speaking, Zhu Yi didn't directly attack, but he ultimately subdued Tunten with the great light and darkness mandala boundary. Xiao Budian also didn't directly attack, which was equivalent to taking advantage of Zhu Yi. But after Lin Feng removed Zhu Yi's great light and darkness boundary, Tunten didn't dare to act rashly. Xiao Budian, who was in the 9th orifice of the golden elixir and could devour the world, was the strongest among Lin Feng's disciples in terms of magic power. After practicing the wind and lightning mandate, Xiao Budian's already powerful physical body became even more destructive. The Black Dragon clan had the strongest physical body among the primordial Sky Dragon clan and was one of the best in the entire demon race. But if Jieyu hadn't formed her nascent soul and advanced to Demon King, she might not have been able to suppress Xiao Budian. Tunten couldn't do anything to the three in a head-on confrontation. Among the remaining people, Yu Hongyan wasn't present, so Yang Qing and Wang Lin were miserably suppressed by Tunten. Especially Tunten, who had swallowed Wang Lin's power of nirvanic extermination, was completely unharmed. As a power of nirvanic extermination, the collapse of Zhu Yi's great light and darkness boundary had rendered her immobile. Wang Lin didn't doubt himself like Yang Qing, but he hated his powerlessness even more. Therefore he would work harder. Staying beside Xiao Yan and the other two was a great pressure for others. If they couldn't turn the pressure into motivation, they would be crushed. Including the time in the mysterious heaven cycle light grotto heaven, Wang Lin had been suppressed by this pressure for more than 10 years. Fortunately, his will was strong enough. If it was someone else, they would either have a mental breakdown and self-denial, or their mind would be distorted and devoured by jealousy. Lin Feng silently looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he nodded vigorously. Disciple will follow master's teachings, I will be careful. After giving Wang Lin some pointers, Lin Feng led Xiao Yan and the others away from Yujing Mountain, heading towards the Celerita Sword Sect's cloud-traversing peak. He didn't control Yujing Mountain to directly descend. That would be cool, but the nature would directly change. It would no longer be a spar between disciples, but an attack on someone else's sect. However, Lin Feng naturally still had his ways to be cool. Jie Yu, who had already advanced to the Demon King stage, was the best means of transportation. The master and disciple group stood on Black Dragon Jie Yu's back, traveling thousands of miles in an instant, flying towards the cloud-traversing peak. No need to travel through space. Lin Feng said to Jie Yu, let's just fly all the way over like this. Let this group of little guys appreciate the beauty of the mountains and rivers, and broaden their minds. This time visiting the sect to fulfill the agreed competition, Lin Feng planned to make the scene as big as possible. Only then would it be convenient for him to raise his own reputation and the sect's overall reputation in areas outside of Kunlun Mountain. Sure enough, crossing the border on a dragon, and a Demon King stage dragon at that, it really couldn't be low-key even if he wanted to. Very quickly, on the road from Kunlun Mountain to the cloud-traversing peak, Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong's reputation became more and more resounding. On the cloud-traversing peak, the big shots of the Celerita's sword sect also received the news that Lin Feng and disciple were about to visit, a group of people staring at each other. Junior brother Qing Ai still hasn't found Murong Yenran. Chapter 238. Lin Feng and the others flew on Black Dragon Jie Yu and soon entered the southeast region of the Great Qin Empire. Tunten looked at the mountain scenery below and pouted, I remember the jade cloud horned snake is nearby. Xiao Budian's eyes lit up when he heard this. Master? Lin Feng smiled and tapped Jie Yu below with the tip of his foot. Jie Yu immediately understood and slowed down, descending to the ground. Withdraw your aura or you will definitely scare the jade cloud horned snake away. Tunten unceremoniously patted Jie Yu's head. Jie Yu was enraged but noticed that Xiao Budian beside Tunten was nodding in agreement. Jie Yu had no choice but to swallow back his anger. Smelly girl, don't let this old dragon find a chance, otherwise I will tear you apart. Now the gap between our cultivations is not the same. Jie Yu thought bitterly, but he still restrained his dragon's might. Demons that formed their Yao core could withdraw their demonic qi, but the dragon aura of the dragon clan was too special. If Jie Yu was still a Yao commander, he would not be able to completely withdraw his dragon aura even if he tried to control it. But now that he had formed his Yao nascent and became a Yao king, it was a piece of cake for him. He withdrew his demonic qi and dragon aura. Although he still looked like 100-feet-long dragon, there were no demonic qi fluctuations. Everyone landed in the mountains. Jie Yu shook his head and snorted, 200 miles east. Xiao Budian was overjoyed. Thank you. He jumped down with Tunten and rushed east. Xiao Yan glanced at them. Master, I'll go take a look. Don't let anything happen. Lin Feng said, no worries, it's just a Yao commander-level jade cloud horned snake. Xiao Yan explained, I'm worried that they might encounter someone and something unpleasant will happen. Yu Hongyan asked, given Tianhao's cultivation, there are very few people who can do anything to him, right? Xiao Yan curled his lips. I'm worried about the people they encounter, not Pihu himself. Yu Hongyan was speechless, but Jie Yu nodded in agreement. Lin Feng looked at Xiao Yan and smiled. If it was little E who said this, I would think it's reliable. But you? If something really happens, I'm afraid it'll be even bigger than Tianhao. Xiao Yan chuckled. Master, don't look at me with your old eyes. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. Forget it. If you want to go, then go. He turned to look at Yu Hongyan. Does Hongyan want to join in the fun as well? Yu Hongyan shook his head. No, I'll meditate and cultivate for a while. Lin Feng faintly smiled and did not speak. Yu Hongyan was a straightforward person, and he didn't care too much about other people's opinions. If it was someone else who was good at socializing, he would often seize every opportunity available to him to build a good relationship with his fellow disciples who had entered the sect earlier. Both sides had their advantages and disadvantages. It was hard to say who was right and who was wrong. It depended on the environment and the specific situation. Although the disciples under Lin Feng's tutelage are all extremely talented, but overall the atmosphere is still quite harmonious. There was a saying that two tigers couldn't live on the same mountain. Xiao Yan and the other three all had great luck and had the ability to be the protagonists of an era. It was inevitable that there would be some friction when ordinary people had different hobbies and styles, let alone the few of them. Lin Feng was actually very glad, even though there were some competitive situations between the disciples, but overall it was all a healthy competition, and they had already forged a relatively deep camaraderie as fellow disciples. Back in the chessboard world, Lin Feng witnessed the real thoughts and impressions between Tiny Tot and Xiao Yan. From Tiny Tot's point of view, he regarded Xiao Yan as a shield, a bad-tempered gorilla who was easily fooled. But on the other hand, wasn't it also a kind of recognition for Xiao Yan? In Tiny Tot's subconscious, this eldest senior brother was strong enough to solve all difficulties. When he was in trouble, the first person he thought of to ask for help was his eldest senior brother. In Xiao Yan's mind, Tiny Tot was a troublemaker who kept causing trouble and needed his help to clean up after him. But even though he was complaining again and was continuously ridiculing in his heart, within the dreamland, the little guy kept on causing trouble. Xiao Yan did not wash his hands of it and not care about it, but instead did his utmost to clean up the mess for the little guy one by one. By the same logic, in Tiny Tot's mental world, Zhu Yi was a big white goose that kept lecturing him. However, although Tiny Tot felt annoyed, he didn't fling his sleeves and leave. Instead, he patiently listened to Zhu Yi's words with a bitter face. In Tiny Tot's mind, Wang Lin was a dog that didn't bark when it bit people, causing him to feel a trace of fear. But in reality, Tiny Tot's strength was far above Wang Lin's, but in the dream, when he met Wang Lin, his choice was to hide and not kill the black dog with a stick. This situation was already a relatively ideal situation. With Yu Hongyan's personality, in such a relatively benign environment, there wouldn't be too many problems. However, the more people there were, the more thoughts there were, and the harder it was to lead the team. These questions were all to test Lin Feng's control as a master. If he could lead his disciples in the direction of healthy competition, it wouldn't matter. Therefore, although the Heaven Spirit Replenishing Pill's pill formula had already been derived, there was no need to keep the pill and it could be given to any disciple to consume. Lin Feng still kept it for himself. He had already formed Yuanying. At this point, the effect of the bone on cultivation was already very small. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't be able to use it himself, so the spirit pill would definitely be given to his disciple. There was no doubt that Wang Lin was the most suitable candidate. The others might not even be able to use it. If one's foundation was poor, there was a lot of room for improvement. On the contrary, if one's foundation was already very high, it would be extremely difficult to improve further. Lin Feng had sufficient reason to believe that if the Heaven Spirit Replenishing Pill was given to Xiao Budian, it would be no different from a jelly bean. If people like Yang Qing, who had a root bone of 9, took it, there would be no obvious effect. However, Xiao Yan and Yu Hongyan, who had a root bone of 8 points, and Zhu Yi, who had a root bone of 7 points, might have the hope of going to the next level after taking it. And for Wang Lin, although he didn't know the specific effect, it was absolutely immediate. It was just that this kind of medicinal pill was different from the heaven-reaching pill. If it was only given to Wang Lin alone, it was hard to say whether other disciples would have other ideas. They might not have, but Lin Feng wanted to completely eliminate this possibility. Although it would delay Wang Lin's cultivation, Lin Feng could only deal with it for the time being. Fortunately, there was already a pill formula. As long as the medicinal materials for refining were collected, they could produce the Heaven Spirit Replenishing Pill in large quantities. At that time, not only would Wang Lin benefit, but the level of the entire sect disciples would also receive a huge improvement. As Lin Feng was pondering, his heart suddenly moved, raising his head to look at the sky in the south. Is it Taoist Qing AI who has come? Lin Feng asked calmly. His voice was not high, but it echoed in the void within a radius of 300 miles. 300 miles to the south, a crack suddenly appeared in the void, a large amount of green clouds flowed out from it. The clouds carried an old man. It was the Celerita Sword Sect's Yuanying stage elder, ancestor Qing AI. Only compared to the calmness outside of the Sand Continent that day, the current ancestor Qing AI's mood was obviously more anxious. After seeing Lin Feng, he straightened his expression and once again became a calm and collected appearance. But Lin Feng clearly felt that after seeing him, the ancestor Qing AI's mood became even more restless. When the ancestor Qing AI saw Lin Feng, he first saluted. So it's the master of Xian sect in front of me. This old man has been impolite. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Taoist friend is too polite. Could it be that you specially came to welcome me? I dare not accept this. I still know the way to Yunxing Peak. It's my duty, it's my duty. The ancestor Qing AI had a bitter taste in his mouth. Lowering his head to see the silent black dragon Jieyu under Lin Feng, his head was even more dizzy. A demon king level dragon race as a mount, the rumors are indeed true. Although he knew that Lin Feng brought Xiao Yan to Yunxing Peak to keep the appointment, the ancestor Qing AI really hoped that he would never see this pair of master and disciple for the rest of his life. He did not come to welcome Lin Feng at all, but to find Murong Yenran. Murong Yenran was the new generation disciple that the Celerita's Sword sect focused on training. For her safety, her master Taoist Tong Ling gave her a total of 3 teleportation talismans. This matter was originally also permitted by the ancestor Qing AI, but now he was so angry that he only wanted to curse. Murong Yenran left Yunxing Peak, completely unceremoniously using the 3 teleportation talismans consecutively. She instantly escaped thousands of miles away. Not to mention other Celerita's Sword sect disciples, even Taoist Tong Ling, an elder in the Golden Elixir period, couldn't find her whereabouts. In desperation, the ancestor Qing AI had to personally go out. Those 3 teleportation talismans were originally refined by him, so he could barely catch the traces and chase all the way. Seeing that he was about to catch up, the ancestor Qing AI had already felt the dawn of hope in front of him, but who knew that he just happened to bump right in front of Lin Feng. The old man really wanted to cry now but had no tears. But the ancestor Qing AI didn't dare to neglect Lin Feng, so he could only secretly send a message to the other Yuanying period elders of the Celerita's Sword sect to come over here to help and continue to secretly search for Murong Yenran, while he braced himself to do the work of welcoming the guests. The ancestor Qing AI's little actions couldn't be hidden from Lin Feng, but Lin Feng didn't care. If the other party wanted to set up an ambush and beat him up, he wasn't afraid either. Lin Feng was just a bit curious about the restless mood of the ancestor Qing AI. This old man seems to have lost something and is in a hurry to find it. But on the surface, Lin Feng didn't show the slightest bit of his emotions, faintly smiling. I have long heard of the great name of Celerita's Sword Venerable, but I still haven't had the chance to meet you, so this time I have to pay a proper visit. The ancestor Qing AI forcibly suppressed his anxious mood and said seriously, before I went out, the sect master of the Blind sect also mentioned that he wanted to meet the sect master of Xian Gate. The strength that Lin Feng showed before, even the powerful figures of the primordial spirit realm also had to treat him seriously. After a pause, the ancestor Qing AI tentatively asked, Disciple of the Blind sect Murong Yenran, there seems to be some misunderstanding between you and your disciple in the past. It's all some young and vigorous fighting between young people. I really don't think it's true. What do you think? Chapter 239. Ancestor Qing Wei asked tentatively, there seems to be some misunderstanding between Murong Yenran, a disciple of the sect, and your disciple in the past. It's just a fight between young people. I don't think it's true. What do you think? Ancestor Qing Wei also knew that his question was a bit too straightforward, but at this moment he could only bite the bullet and ask. It seems that Murong Yenron's strength is limited, and she is definitely not Xiao Yan's opponent. Lin Feng already understood in his heart. He smiled slightly and said, whether it's true or not, it's not up to me. It's up to them. However, based on the current situation, this seat's disciple has always remembered this agreement of 3 years. Lin Feng's tone was flat, but what he said made Ancestor Qing Wei shudder. Xiao Yan is my chief disciple. If he wants to go to the Xingyun Peak, I will naturally support him. Lin Feng looked at Ancestor Qing Wei, whose forehead had begun to sweat, and said silently, Taoism friend, don't get me wrong. I will definitely not intervene in the bet between the two juniors. This time I am going to the Xingyun Peak with Xiao Yan purely to visit Flowing Light Swordsman. There is no other intention. Ancestor Qing Wei smiled dryly, of course. Although there was a smile on his face, at this moment his heart was more bitter than eating gold thread. Although Lin Feng's tone was light, the unspoken meaning in his words was extremely clear. He would not intervene in the bet between the two juniors. In other words, if it's not only between the two juniors, but also someone else intervenes, then I won't be polite. Your ancestor Flowing Light Swordsman of the Celerita Sword Sect is indeed a primordial spirit powerful figure, but in front of me he also has to follow the rules. If you want to be shameless, then let's compete to see whose magical power is stronger and whose magical power is greater. Ancestor Qing Wei felt aggrieved, but in front of Lin Feng he did not dare to lose his temper, which really made him depressed to the extreme. With Lin Feng's magic power, the area within 300 miles in circumference around him was completely isolated, and Patriarch Qing An was 300 miles away. Patriarch Qing An dared not to explore the area where Lin Feng was with his own magic power. Therefore, he couldn't see that in Lin Feng's position, 200 li to the east, Xiao Yan and the other two were curiously watching a jade cloud horned snake hunt for food. Just as Lin Feng had said, this was a jade cloud horned snake that had formed a Yao core and reached the strength of a demon commander. Its entire body was green like jade, and it was not very large, only about 10 meters long. However, its Yao Qi was extremely violent. The jade cloud horned snake had a long horn on its forehead that emitted a fragrant scent. As the scales on the snake's body opened and closed, there was a faint green miasma swirling around the jade cloud horned snake's body. Although it did not have the power of the Dragon Clan's great auspicious cloud, it was still extraordinary. Tunton drooled as he looked at the jade cloud horned snake and introduced it to Xiao Budian and Xiao Yan. The jade cloud horned snake has 3 treasures. The most delicious part of its body is the horn on its head. Its horn is hard, and there's nothing delicious about it. However, the inside of the horn is hollow, and there's some amber liquid inside. It's the essence of the jade cloud horned snake, and it's extremely delicious. Besides the juice in the horn, the second most delicious thing on the jade cloud horned snake is the green miasma released when its scales open and close. Don't look at it as gas, but it tastes very good after being swallowed. Compared to it, snake meat can only be ranked 3rd. Xiao Yan curled his lips. The juice in the horn is fine, but what's so delicious about the gas? Only you Taodai can eat it in such a way. Tunton snorted. You don't know how to taste it. Won't you know when you try it later? Xiao Budian interrupted their argument, his eyes staring at the jade cloud horned snake at the foot of the mountain. This guy seems to be hunting. The jade cloud horned snake was constantly activating the dark green miasma around its body, wrapping around a red cloud, as if trying to refine it. Xiao Yan and the others glanced at it and knew that the red cloud was no ordinary item, but a treasure that had been refined. Looking at its magic power and spiritual energy fluctuations, it should be a magic tool refined by a human cultivator. However, this person's cultivation levels seemed to be slightly low. Surrounded by the jade cloud horned snake, he could only defend with all his strength. But the jade cloud horned snake noticed the existence of Xiao Yan and the others and was obviously very afraid of them. Half of its attention was on them, so the red cloud was still very stable and there was no danger of it being broken for a while. Xiao Budian rubbed his fists and walked towards the jade cloud horned snake. He laughed and said, Tunton, do you think it's better to make snake soup? Or just roast it and eat it? Tunton rolled its eyes. No matter how you eat it, don't kill it. It's best to catch it alive, otherwise the dark green cloud will be wasted. The jade cloud horned snake that had already formed its Yao core had intelligence that was not inferior to humans. Hearing the conversation of Xiao Budian and the others, it immediately became angry. However, the pressure that Xiao Budian and the others gave it was too great, so it did not dare to act blindly without thinking. But the jade cloud horned snake was somewhat unwilling to just run away like this. Its pair of vertical snake eyes moved, and it suddenly opened its mouth, spitting out a mouthful of amber-colored Yao Qi. This amber-colored Yao Qi was formed from the juice of its single horn. When the Yao Qi came into contact with the red cloud, although it was still unable to directly break through, it immediately swept the red cloud up from the ground. Wrapped by the amber-colored Yao Qi, the red cloud was directly swallowed by the jade cloud horned snake with its mouth wide open. It was preparing to escape. It did not matter if the red cloud could not be broken for a while, it could take it away and slowly deal with it after escaping danger. Once it retrieved the red cloud, the jade cloud horned snake's body bounced off the ground, turning into a green light, and was about to escape into the distance. Wishful thinking. Xiao Yan sneered, waved the black cloud flag and moved through space. A black light flashed, and he was already in front of the jade cloud horned snake. The jade cloud horned snake hissed, and a large amount of green clouds surged forth, wanting to swallow Xiao Yan up. The green cloud carried a faint grassy fragrance, but Xiao Yan did not have the time to carefully taste it. The wild Yao Qi within the cloud actually caused the entire space to slightly tremble. Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows. Good monster, your innate magical ability is somewhat similar to my 8 trigrams disintegration. As he said that, Xiao Yan blasted out a fist, and the enormous power of disintegration came into contact with the green cloud, and the green cloud immediately began to disintegrate. But the jade cloud horned snake's green cloud was indeed powerful, and it actually continuously disintegrated Xiao Yan's magic power. Knitting his brows, Xiao Yan knew that he couldn't continue this stalemate any longer. Among the 3 disciples under Lin Feng that had formed their golden elixir, Xiao Budian's 9 orifices golden elixir could absorb the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. His spiritual energy was the most vigorous, and at the same time, his recovery was also the strongest. The 9 orifices golden elixir could instantly refine a large amount of spiritual energy into his magic power with a single breath. Zhu Yi's light and darkness golden Dan's yin-yang transformation technique was not as vigorous and thick as Xiao Budian's, but its recovery ability was stronger, even more so. On the other hand, Xiao Yan's golden elixir had the strongest explosive power, but its endurance and recovery was a lot lower. Since Xiao Yan cultivated the 8 trigrams Great Tao scripture and absorbed the cyclic violet qi to cultivate, it wasn't impossible for him to slowly exhaust the jade cloud horned snake with his magic power. However, he recalled Lin Feng's guidance. Xiao Yan, whether it's your golden elixir magic power or the various divine abilities you've cultivated, your strength lies in your explosive power. Protracted battles aren't your forte, so you should try to make up for your shortcomings. But when it comes to actual combat, you should try to bring out your strengths. Habit is a terrifying thing, and it will often unknowingly affect your judgment. So no matter who your opponent is, remember to play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses. Only a dead enemy is a good enemy. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan no longer hesitated. His magic power surged, and a pair of bluish-purple flame wings unfolded behind him. A terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth instantly spread out. Don't! Tunten and Xiao Yan simultaneously cried out in alarm, but Xiao Yan's wings formed from the nether evil flame abruptly closed in midair. Like a pair of gigantic scissors, it directly cut apart the green mist around the jade cloud horned serpent. The bluish-purple wings did not stop, and under the horrified gaze of the jade cloud horned snake, they directly cut it in half. The vitality of snakes was extremely strong. Although it was cut in half, the upper body where the snake's head was still struggling to escape into the distance, while the lower body landed on the ground and kept twisting. Wind and lightning surged around the little guy's body as he heavily stepped on the jade cloud horned snake's head, pressing it into the ground. He saw that the jade cloud horned snake's body was still burning with a bluish-purple netherworld evil flame, and anxiously shouted, "Eldest senior brother, quickly retract your divine ability, otherwise the snake meat will be burnt to nothing." Tunton hopped around Xiao Yan's side and shouted, "I told you to capture him alive, this is too wasteful." Xiao Yan snorted, "If you don't act quickly, the person who is swallowed by it will be in danger. Is human life more important than food?" Tunton did not think and blurted out, "Of course food is more important." Xiao Yan rolls his eyes and no longer pays attention to her. Xiao Budian increased the strength of his feet, stepping on the jade cloud horned snake until it could not move. He looked up at Xiao Yan, "Eldest senior brother, what if the person you save is an evil person?" Xiao Yan said indifferently, "Just kill it, what else can I do?" He put away the nether evil flame, then broke open the jade cloud horned snake's stomach, revealing the red mist artifact inside. The amber demonic aura had turned back into liquid and returned to the horn on the jade cloud horned snake's head. Without the suppression of the amber demonic aura, the jade cloud horned snake's digestive ability could not dissolve the red mist. As if feeling the demonic aura that had been attacking it retreat, the red mist trembled slightly, but it still did not disperse. Xiao Yan raised his hand and patted the red mist. It felt like patting cotton, as if it was real. "Okay, that jade cloud horned snake can't threaten you anymore. You can come out." Hearing Xiao Yan's human voice, and sensing that his mana wave was not like that of a demon, the other party finally relaxed. The red cloud mist gradually dispersed, revealing the original appearance of the person inside. The mist turned into a red line and was absorbed into the gourd on that person's waist. After seeing the person's face clearly, Xiao Yan and that person showed an expression as if they had seen a ghost and exclaimed at the same time, "Murong Yenran? Xiao Yan." The next moment, they shook their heads at the same time, "You've got the wrong person." Xiao Yan shook his head like a drum. He had saved a person for a long time, but it turned out that the person he saved was his former enemy. If Xiao Budian and the others knew about this, he would really lose face. Murong Yenran was even more ashamed and angry. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. For the first time, she felt that there was something more terrible than dying in the snake's mouth. Chapter 240. Even at that time, they had only met once, and they might not have remembered each other's appearance clearly. Even though, counting the time they spent training in the blessed heavenly abode, perhaps it had already been more than 10 years since they last met. Even though both of their appearances had undergone huge changes. But Xiao Yan and Murong Yenran still immediately recognized each other's identity. It was just that meeting under such circumstances was really somewhat out of the two's expectations. Murong Yenran was ashamed and angry to the point that she wanted to die, and Xiao Yan was also extremely embarrassed. In Xiao Yan's expectations, either Murong Yenran oversaw the cloud-traversing peak, setting up all kinds of ostentatious displays, waiting for him to come to challenge her, or joining forces with the people of the Celeritas sword sect to kill him halfway. But he never thought that he would meet Murong Yenran in such a sorry state. Xiao Budian handed the half-dead jade cloud-horned snake to Tunton, and came over himself, asking curiously, "Eldest senior brother, do you know each other?" Xiao Yan and Murong Yenran said in unison, "No." "Who are you trying to fool?" Xiao Budian looked at the two embarrassed people, curling his lips, looking at Xiao Yan with dissatisfaction. "Eldest senior brother, I'm at least 11 years old, not a baby, don't think that I'm so easy to coax, okay?" Xiao Yan rolled his eyes, not answering. Xiao Budian looked at Murong Yenran with a smile. "If I didn't hear wrong, I remember that just now my senior brother called your name." Murong Yenran's face darkened. It seemed that this brat already knew, and was purposely playing dumb here. "You're Murong Yenran?" Xiao Budian circled around her. "At that time it was you who dumped my eldest senior brother? TSK, what a character." Being swept up and down by Xiao Budian's unbridled gaze, although Xiao Budian was only a half-grown child, Murong Yenran still felt ashamed and angry. What made her especially embarrassed was that the way Xiao Budian sized her up was not admiring a beauty, but rather like watching a rare animal. "Although you're a golden elixir period cultivator, if you think that you can humiliate me like this, then you're wrong. Murong Yenran pulled herself together and said in a low voice, "Is this the quality of the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong?" The little guy widened his eyes, as if he saw the most astonishing thing in the world. He sneered, "You can't take it anymore? Back then when you went to Wuzhou City to dump my eldest senior brother, where did your quality go? Those who humiliate others will always be humiliated by others. What privilege do you think you have?" Murong Yenran's face turned pale, unable to speak. Xiao Yan waved his hand. Xiao Yan smiled and said nothing. Xiao Yan stared at Murong Yenran and said calmly, "Miss Murong, why are you here? Travel? It seems like you've forgotten that someone said he would go to the cloud-traversing peak to challenge you. Perhaps you think that person will never appear?" Murong Yenran took a deep breath, raised her head, and looked straight into Xiao Yan's eyes. "I haven't forgotten. Since we've met today, then we might as well finish the bet we made that day." As she spoke, she patted the gourd at her waist. A red mist gushed out and enveloped her whole body. At the same time, the long sword at her waist was unsheathed, turning into a pure white flowing light that kept flashing in the air. At this moment, she already knew that Xiao Yan's strength was far superior to hers, but she still wanted to fight with all her strength. Her pride and dignity did not allow her to shrink back and admit defeat in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan looked at Murong Yenran silently and did not speak. Xiao Budian looked at Murong Yenran, who was going all out, with a smile and said, "The middle stage of Zhuji realm, you can't fight with my eldest senior brother." He turned his head to look at Xiao Yan. "Eldest senior brother, let's go back to Master's place first. Ask Master to make a small world. You and her enter there to fight. Let Master suppress your cultivation a bit. Even suppressing it to the foundation establishment stage won't work. We, the disciples of the celestial sect of wonders, are invincible in a battle of magical powers in the same realm. If she wants to spar with you, Master has to at least suppress your cultivation to the qi refining stage." Murong Yenran was so angry that her whole body was trembling, while Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Budian speechlessly. Tunton also did not care about the jade cloud-horned snake, looking at Xiao Budian and shaking his head, saying in his heart, "This little demon king's mouth is too poisonous. If I were that Murong Yenran, other than fighting to the death, there's no second path to take. Otherwise I won't be able to raise my head in this life." The problem was that the result of a fight to the death was without any suspense, a true fight to the death. Murong Yenran took a deep breath, throwing all distracting thoughts to the back of her head. Raising her long sword horizontally in front of her chest, she said in a deep voice, "Celerita's sword sect disciple Murong Yenran, please advise me." She had just finished speaking when she suddenly saw Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian look at each other, Xiao Budian dispiritedly muttering, "There's no good show to watch." Not waiting for Murong Yenran to react to what he meant, a streak of purple qi suddenly broke through the void and wrapped around her, then she lost consciousness. Lin Feng's voice came from the void, "Little Yen, don't be in a hurry to make a move. This girl might have secretly escaped from the Celerita's sword sect." Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian stared blankly at the same time. Xiao Yan chuckled and said, "What the hell is the Celerita's sword sect doing?" Xiao Budian's face once again revealed a smile. "Seems to be even more fun." Silently Lin Feng said, "You guys just pretend you've never seen this girl. We still have to go to the Xingyun Peak. After we get there, let's see what tricks the Celerita's sword sect is playing." Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian responded in unison. Xiao Yan stood where he was in a daze. Xiao Budian's attention very quickly shifted to the jade cloud-horned snake on Tunton's side. Murong Yenran was swept away by Lin Feng's magic power, but she woke up in a moment. Just as she opened her eyes, she saw a young man dressed in a purple robe silently looking at her. She couldn't feel the slightest bit of power and magic power fluctuation from this young man, but fear rose from the bottom of her heart and soul. She felt that the person in front of her was countless times stronger than her grandmaster, ancestor Qing Wei. Among the people Murong Yenran has seen in her life, only when she had just entered the sect and followed her grandmaster to pay a visit to the Celerita's sword sect's sect master, Celerita's sword saint, did she have a similar feeling. The Celerita's sword sect's pressure was even more straightforward, but it wasn't as leisurely as the person in front of her. Lin Feng instead looked at Murong Yenran with interest. There was something he really wanted to say to Murong Yenran. "Miss, thank you for helping me cultivate Xiao Yen. You really are a good person." Murong Yenran looked at Lin Feng, suddenly feeling that the person in front of her was somewhat familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had seen him before. Lin Feng looked at Murong Yenran's puzzled expression and couldn't help but faintly smile. He knew what the other was puzzled about. Strictly speaking, the two had met face to face once before. Lin Feng met Murong Yenran even before he met Xiao Yen. It was also from Murong Yenran's mouth that Lin Feng found out about Xiao Yan's existence. At that time, the heavily injured Long Yi who was attached to the peach tree posed a threat to the villagers of Stone Village and Xiao Budian. In order to save Xiao Budian, Lin Feng, who was still only at the qi condensation stage, tricked Murong Yenran and her fellow disciples into going to deal with Long Yi. It's just that the difference between the Lin Feng at that time and the current Lin Feng was really too big. Squatting in the mysterious Heaventime Light Cave for more than 8 years, not mentioning the change in his appearance, most importantly, his aura and temperament were already completely different. In the eyes of bystanders, he was practically two different people. Murong Yenran felt that he was familiar, that was thanks to her already starting to cultivate Dao techniques at that time. Her soul was nimble, that's why she was able to leave a bit of an impression. Lin Feng's mind slightly moved, the purple energy transformed from his own mana still twining around Murong Yenran, lightly touching her soul and already completely erasing the impression he left in Murong Yenran's mind in the past. Murong Yenran did not detect this at all, only slightly absent-minded. After calming down and looking at Lin Feng again, she did not feel anything strange. Even though it was a bit strange, she just thought that she remembered incorrectly. She looked at Lin Feng and asked softly, "May I ask who senior is?" "I am the master of Xian Gate, Lin Feng." Lin Feng said lightly, "You are the Celerita's Sword Sect disciple Murong Yenran who made a bet with my disciple Xiao Yen?" Murong Yenran nodded with a bitter smile, bowing and saluting. Junior Murong Yenran pays respect to the master of Xian Gate. Lin Feng asked, "You've already met Xiao Yen, what are your thoughts?" Murong Yenran's face turned pale, tightly pursing her lips and said in a low voice, "Junior was young and frivolous in the past, choosing the stupidest way to visit and break off the engagement. At the time I didn't notice it, but after I became an adult and thought about the past, only then did I realize that I caused great humiliation to Xiao Yen and his family. Regarding this, I express my deep apologies, but I don't regret breaking off the engagement. Today Xiao Yan's cultivation far surpasses mine. That's his good fortune and achievement, I don't envy him. My marriage is decided by myself, I don't regret my decision." Lin Feng's expression did not change, but he secretly curled his lips. "Don't say that, girl, half of his military merit medal is due to your contribution." Murong Yenran looked at the calm expression Lin Feng, slowly bowing down. "In the past there was an agreement, if I lost to Xiao Yen I would voluntarily become a slave. But I am unable to fulfill this bet, my family, my sect are unable to accept such an outcome. Anyway, in Xiao Yan's eyes I am also a shameless person, so I can only be shameless again. The mistake in the past I am willing to use my life to pay for it, but the matter of becoming a slave is something I am unable to do." Lin Feng glanced at her, but did not make a response, instead saying lightly, "Right? Celerita Sword Sect's fellow Taoist Qing AI is your grandmaster, right?" Murong Yenran's body abruptly trembled, then she heard Lin Feng continue saying, "Right now he is 300 miles south of here. According to what he said, he came to welcome me and my people to your Celerita's Sword Sect's cloud-traversing peak. But now it looks like he came to find you?" Murong Yenran's body trembled again, lowering her head deeply. Only after a long while did she say in a low voice, "Disciple doesn't know why Grandmaster came here. Disciple just went out to travel by myself, preparing to return to the Celerita's Sword Sect." Lin Feng smiled saying, "Oh, that's just right, I'll call fellow Taoist Qing AI over right now, you can go back with her." Murong Yenran didn't dare to say anything more, only her body trembling more and more violently. Lin Feng looked at her, suddenly asking, "Why did you run away from the Celerita's Sword Sect? According to what you said before, you weren't running away from the battle with Xiao Yen." Chapter 241. Lin Feng looked at Murong Yenran rather interestedly, continuously calculating in his heart. Why did she run away from the Celeritas sword sect? According to what she said before, she wasn't doing it to avoid the battle with Xiao Yan. If it wasn't because she was avoiding the battle, then it could only mean that the Celeritas sword sect made some sort of arrangement, and this arrangement made her unable to accept it. This girl didn't want to fulfill the bet, but was willing to repay with her life. First, not mentioning whether or not she was playing the strategy of retreating in order to advance, just this kind of attitude showed that her personality was relatively strong. Making your own decisions about your own marriage? Lin Feng thought for a bit, gradually sorting out the matter. If I was someone from the Celeritas sword sect, what would I do when faced with this kind of thing? Not their match, but not wanting to admit defeat, then the best method could only be to ask for outside help. Find helpers to share the pressure on your body. Lin Feng looked at the uneasy Murong Yenran, suddenly asking, "Tell me, who is the Celeritas sword sect preparing to send you to unite by marriage? Mount Shu sword sect or the Great Qin dynasty?" Murong Yenran raised her head in shock to look at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was calm. To be able to help the Celeritas sword sect withstand the pressure brought by Shenmen Tianzong, the most suitable ones are only the Mount Shu sword sect and the Great Qin dynasty. Junior doesn't know what Senior is talking about. Murong Yenran deeply lowered her head. The corners of Lin Feng's mouth slightly hooked into a light smile, his tone calm and gentle, but when the words he said fell into Murong Yenran's ears, it made her entire body feel as if it had fallen into an ice cave. Being the servant of my disciple, you are unable to accept it, afraid of bringing shame to your family and sect, but have you ever thought about it? Now that you refuse the marriage and run away, will it leave an irreparable crack between the Celeritas sword sect and the other party? If it's the Mount Shu sword sect, then it's fine, but if it's the Great Qin dynasty, your actions very likely will bring disaster to your family. If I remember correctly, although your Murong family isn't among the 4 great families of the Great Qin dynasty, it's still one of the few rich families below the 4 great families. Your Murong family's base is even in the Great Qin dynasty's capital, West Hill City, right under the eyes of the Great Qin Emperor. Murong Yenran's body suddenly trembled and she saw stars. She just wanted to run away from the marriage and subconsciously wanted to get as far away from Yunqing Peak as possible. Her mind was muddled and she forgot that the person she rejected was Crown Prince Chongyun, the Crown Prince of the Great Qin dynasty. If he ran away from the marriage, it was very likely that his family would be implicated. She sighed in her heart, "Is this my fate? I can't escape it no matter what." Silently looking at Murong Yenran, Lin Feng twitched his mouth inwardly. Her situation depended on which angle one looked at the problem from. On the bright side, she yearned for freedom and independence. But looking at it from another point of view, this girl on one side enjoys the status, treatment, and all kinds of resources that ordinary people are unable to reach because of her status as the Murong family's daughter and the Celeritas sword sect's direct disciple, but she also doesn't want to pay any price. Regardless of whether it was the secular world or the cultivation world, it was very common for the descendants of aristocratic families to get married. In fact, independent marriages were actually rare. If there was a gain, naturally there would be a price to pay, or in other words, she had to bear the corresponding responsibility. Murong Yenran hated her family and sect elders who arranged her life events, but she forgot that because she was the Murong family's direct daughter and the Celeritas sword sect's core disciple, she could enjoy resources that ordinary people could not reach. Of course, maybe deep in her heart, the girl hoped that she was born in an ordinary family? This was not what Lin Feng could guess. He could only speculate based on the existing clues, and it was impossible for him to really see through people's hearts. Regarding Murong Yenran's psychological state, Lin Feng was not sure, nor did he deny it. It was still that sentence, looking at a problem from different angles, one would often get different conclusions. For Lin Feng, the only thing he cared about was, what kind of variables would this matter add to the trip of him and Xiao Yan and the others? Murong Yenran had already calmed down at this moment. Although her face was pale, she still bowed to Lin Feng politely. "Senior, please point out the direction of Ancestor Qing Wei's ancestor. Senior and your party are guests from afar. As a disciple of the Celeritas sword sect, I am willing to lead the way and bring senior and several senior brothers to tour the cloud-traversing peak. Lin Feng looked at Murong Yenran with a slight smile, but did not speak. Murong Yenran's mood suddenly became perturbed. She suddenly thought that since Lin Feng had already seen through the plans of Ancestor and Master, how would he let her go back so easily? Detaining her here, the Great Qin dynasty and the Celeritas sword sect would inevitably become hostile. The plans of Ancestor Qing Wei and the others would be ruined in minutes. Xianmen Tianzong could easily destroy the plans of the Celeritas sword sect, and could even counterattack the Celeritas sword sect. On the agreed date of the fight, Lin Feng brought Xiao Yan to the cloud-traversing peak, but Murong Yenran could not show up. How would he explain to the Celeritas sword sect? After the opening ceremony outside of Shazhou City, the names of Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong had already been thoroughly established. Besides Lin Feng's own origin being a mystery, the identities and backgrounds of his disciples were already no longer a secret. In the past, Xiao Yan went from a genius to a loser, and then after being taken in as a disciple by Lin Feng, his experience of soaring to the sky in one go became the inspirational model for all the young talents in the world. Inevitably, the matter of Murong Yenran coming to break off the engagement that day was also brought up by people. After all, everyone has a heart for gossip. This kind of peach-colored lace was the most popular with the public. Originally, it was only a small circle of people, but with Lin Feng's recent great momentum, riding a dragon all the way, personally accompanying Xiao Yan to the cloud-traversing peak to keep the appointment, the people who knew already became more and more. It was precisely because of this that the Celeritas sword sect felt an increasing headache. If on the day of the wagered fight Murong Yenran really was unable to show up, outsiders would only think that she was afraid to fight. The result would be even more shameful than losing. In addition, the Celeritas sword sect stood Crown Prince Chongyun up. At that time the pressure from both sides would come up together, and the Celeritas sword sect would no longer be able to survive. Thinking of this, the gaze with which Murong Yenran looked at Lin Feng clearly became frightened. But Lin Feng's attention was not on her, instead splitting out a strand of divine sense, crushing a sound transmission crystal, using a silent mana transmission method to communicate with the person on the other side of the crystal. Has anything interesting happened recently? On the other side of the crystal a clear female voice sounded. It was the voice of Taishu Temple's former saintess Yan Mingyue. If speaking of interesting, then it would be you sect leader Lin, riding a dragon across half of the Great Qin dynasty, personally accompanying this disciple to keep the appointment at the cloud-traversing peak. After both sides had been in contact for a while, Lin Feng gradually became accustomed to Yan Mingyue's teasing. You know what I'm asking. Yan Mingyue naturally knew that what Lin Feng was referring to was the situation of him riding a dragon with great fanfare, and the reactions of the various powers towards this. The Great Qin dynasty's heir apparent, Crown Prince Chongyun, recently left the Great Qing dynasty's capital Xiling City, his whereabouts unknown. Silently Yan Mingyue said, there is news that he is heading towards the Great Qin dynasty's southeast territory. The Great Qin dynasty's southeast territory is the Celeritas sword sect's territory, the area where the cloud-traversing peak is located. Personally coming over. Lin Feng calculated in his heart for a moment, suddenly asking, I heard that the Great Qin dynasty produced an extraordinary person? Yan Mingyue answered, Sect leader Lin is referring to their new prime minister, right? Rumor has it that he doesn't have the slightest bit of cultivation, but subdued everyone in the Great Qin dynasty. To be able to cause such a ruckus, but not be a true cultivator, this person naturally has some areas that surpass others. Lin Feng smiled faintly, slowly calculating in his heart, Thank you, fellow Yan. Yan Mingyue's tone was calm. Sect leader Lin is too polite. I wonder when your disciple Zhu Yi will return to Tianjing City? He has already not visited teacher Uncle Meng's grave for a long time. Lin Feng asked indifferently, Is this your question or is it asking on behalf of the Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Hongwu? Yan Mingyue answered, Neither, I'm interrogating on behalf of Emperor Zhou. Lin Feng smiled saying, So you are not preparing to learn from Meng Bingyun and marry Zhu Hongwu, but rather directly enter the palace? Sect leader Lin must be joking. Yan Mingyue's tone carried a bit of a smile. What Mingyue seeks is completely different from teacher Uncle Meng, so naturally I won't use the same method. Lin Feng's pupils abruptly contracted. According to what he knows, in Taishu Temple, Meng Bingyun and Yan Mingyue should be on the same side. Now that Yan Mingyue said this, does it mean that she wants to change sides, or does she have some other thoughts? Thoughts continuously turning in his heart, Lin Feng's tone did not reveal any clues. So it's like this, then it's me who was rash. Yan Mingyue continued to say, that's right, there's something I need to inform sect leader Lin in advance. In a few days, Mingyue will be returning to my sect's White Cloud Mountain. At that time, I might not be able to contact sect leader Lin like now. Lin Feng nodded his head slightly. Yan Mingyue informing him of this matter in advance is quite good, allowing him to make many arrangements in advance so that there won't be any sudden changes and he won't be caught unprepared. I wish fellow Yan a smooth journey. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Yan Mingyue also smiled and said, Mingyue will be very content if I don't get thrown out. Speaking of which, junior brother Pang returned to White Cloud Mountain before, with his talent and what he gained in the Sand Continent. I'm sure he will make a breakthrough very soon. Lin Feng smiled, but did not continue on this topic, lightly saying, I wish fellow Yan a smooth journey. I also wish sect leader Lin a smooth journey on Cloud Traversing Peak. Yan Mingyue smiled knowingly, and did not continue to talk about Pang Jia. After wishing Lin Feng a smooth journey, she hung up the call. After thinking for a while, Lin Feng muttered to himself, if I want to verify my guess, then I'll just have to go to a place. He raised his head to look at Murong Yenran. Seeing Murong Yenran's uneasy eyes, he couldn't help but smile. Without further explanation, Murong Yenran lost consciousness with a roll of purple qi. After calling Xiao Yan and others back, Lin Feng removed the barrier of Dharma power and let Ancestor Qing Wei come closer. Ancestor Qing Wei was also uneasy. Although he tried to pretend to be calm, his eyes kept observing the expressions of Lin Feng and his apprentices, lest they had already met Murong Yenran. After receiving Lin Feng's order in advance, Xiao Yan and others all controlled their emotional changes, so that Ancestor Qing Wei couldn't find any clues. The old man couldn't help but mutter more in his heart. At this time, Lin Feng took the initiative to say with a smile, before going to Cloud Traversing Peak, I plan to go to a place on the way. Fellow Yan Mingyue, would you like to go with me? Chapter 242. Looking at the uneasy Qing Wei ancestor, Lin Feng smiled. Before going to Xingyun Peak, I plan to go to a place on the way. Would you like to go with me? Since Sect Master Lin is in such a good mood, I'm naturally happy to go with you. Although he was burning with anxiety, Qing Wei ancestor had to put Murong Yenran's matter aside for the moment and try his best to deal with Lin Feng. Anyway, he had already informed his fellow disciples to take over his job to search for Murong Yenran. What Qing Wei ancestor was most worried about at the moment was that Murong Yenran had fallen into Lin Feng's hands. If that was really the case, he would follow Lin Feng and think of a way. Lin Feng smiled. In that case, let's go. The black dragon Jieyu under his feet let out a long roar, carrying Lin Feng, Xiao Yan and the others and flying into the air again. Qing Wei ancestor didn't dare to stand up. No matter how tame and docile Jieyu was in front of Lin Feng, he was also a dragon in the Demon King realm. His strength was no less than Qing Wei ancestor. The old man controlled Qing Wei ancestor to follow Jieyu, so he wouldn't fall behind. He patiently planned to see what Lin Feng was up to. Who knew that the more they went down, the more Qing Wei ancestor felt something was wrong. Looking at where Lin Feng was going, his destination was Xiao Yan's hometown, Wuzhou City. Xiao Yan looked at the city on the horizon in the distance and also recognized it. His heart was slightly warm and he turned to look at Lin Feng. Master? Lin Feng smiled faintly. Come to think of it, you haven't been back to Wuzhou for almost 3 years since you became my disciple. There was a saying that if you don't return to your hometown when you are rich, it's like walking at night in brocade clothes. Maybe some people would think that this idea was shallow, but it was undeniable that returning home in brocade clothes had a great attraction for everyone who went out to fight. If there were people they cared about there, the attraction would be even greater. Xiao Yan nodded lightly, saying, "Disciple originally planned to report to Master after the battle at Xingyun Peak and return to Wuzhou to take a look. Will there still be suspense in that battle?" Lin Feng smiled leisurely. Xiao Yan also smiled. Jie Feng flew into the sky above Wuzhou City, immediately causing the entire city to fall into a state of panic. The arrival of a Demon King-level demon brought great pressure. The entire Wuzhou City, the city lord with the highest cultivation, was no more than Golden Elixir realm. A well-dressed middle-aged man flew into the sky, looking at Lin Feng and Yan and Jie Feng on Feng's back, bowing and asking, "Wei Feng, Wei, Sect Master, Feng, Jie, Master of Feng, and Tian, Feng and Long Feng is." Junior Li Yunzong, Great Qin's Wuzhou City Lord, respectfully welcomed Senior's arrival. Lin Feng didn't say anything. Xiao Yan beside him jumped down from Jie Feng's back, stepping into the air and arriving in front of Li Yunzong, bowing back. "Shenmen Tianzong disciple Xiao Yan, City Lord Li greets you." Li Yunzong looked at Xiao Yan, who was standing in the air, secretly nodding his head. "This is that master of Feng's first disciple Xiao Yan. Indeed, he is in the Golden Elixir period realm. Rumor has it that he can contend against the Yuanying ancestor. I wonder if that's true or false. I really didn't think that a tiny Xiao family would actually produce such a person." Li Yunzong secretly observed Xiao Yan, even though he is also a Golden Elixir initial stage cultivator like him, but the power that Xiao Yan faintly exuded made Li Yunzong secretly apprehensive. Regarding Lin Feng ignoring him, Li Yunzong didn't dare to have the slightest dissatisfaction, instead feeling that it was natural. Looking at Xiao Yan, then looking at Lin Feng, Li Yunzong secretly sighed in his heart. This Shenmen Tianzong's sudden rise is really unfathomable. He then turned to look at the ancestor Qing AI at the side. Even though he doesn't recognize him, he can also feel that terrifying mana fluctuations. Looking again at the green cloud under the ancestor Qing AI's feet, he had a guess in his heart. Which ancestor of the Celeritas sword sect has descended? The ancestor Qing AI said indifferently, "I am Qing AI, City Lord Li doesn't need to be so courteous." Li Yunzong immediately understood, so it is the ancestor Qing AI who has graced us with his presence. At this time Xiao Yan said, "This time we only came to Wuzhou City along the way, we won't be staying for long, City Lord Li doesn't need to be so courteous." Li Yunzong nodded his head, smiling and extending his hand to lead. "If that's the case, then I won't disturb you any longer, everyone please." To be able to become the City Lord, Li Yunzong's eyes and brows are naturally bright. He didn't stay any longer and left on his own. Xiao Yan is a Wuzhou local. Naturally, he doesn't need him to do any guiding or similar work. No matter if it's Lin Feng, or the ancestor Qing AI, Black Dragon Jieyu, or even Xiao Yan, Tunten and Xiao Budian, whoever wants to flatten Wuzhou City is not someone that Li Yunzong can stop. Since that's the case, he better not worry too much about it. It's okay. The arrangements from before should be able to satisfy the people of Shenmen Tianzong. Thinking of this, Li Yunzong couldn't help but wipe his sweat, rejoicing that he carried out Crown Prince Chongyun's orders to the letter. On Li Yunzong's side, he secretly rejoiced. Xiao Yan looked at the Xiao family mansion in front of him but was somewhat dazed. Looking at the neighbors to his left and right, only then did he confirm that he didn't remember the address of the house incorrectly. The Xiao family mansion in front of him, compared to when he left in the past, has more than doubled in size and extravagance. The brick walls, the gates, the courtyard and pavilions, all have been renovated and is currently still in the process of expansion. There's that newly built small building that isn't even half complete. The location of the foundation should have originally belonged to the neighbors. The entire Xiao family mansion is being expanded and swallowed up a lot of nearby land. At the entrance of the mansion there's already a group of people waiting there. It's precisely the Xiao family members who were secretly notified by Li Yunzong. Looking at the approaching Xiao Yan, everyone had warm smiles on their faces. Xiao Yan secretly frowned. He knows all of those smiling faces, but right now each one looks more and more unfamiliar than the other. This brought back many distant but not very happy memories for him. In Xiao Yan's impression, he had only seen these smiling faces before he was 12 years old. At that time he still hadn't become trash because of Yan Mingyue and Tunten. He was still a young genius famous far and wide in the entire Wuzhou city and even the entire southeast of the Great Qin dynasty. Unfortunately, ever since a great change when he was 12 years old, Xiao Yan's great perfection Qi disciple cultivation level at that time regressed to the first layer of Qi disciple overnight, instantly falling from the clouds to the bottom of the valley. The trajectory of his descent was not a parabola but a direct free fall. In Xiao Yan's memories, it was also from that time that the smiling faces surrounding him gradually disappeared. What remained were mostly sighs of pity and gazes, and even more so malicious mockery. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan's gaze became somewhat cold. There's no love without reason in this world, and there's no hate without reason. Lin Feng's indifferent voice suddenly sounded in Xiao Yan's mind. The present is long different from the past. You are also no longer the you of the past. It's completely normal for the gazes of others to change. But don't let the gazes of others affect your own emotions. Xiao Yan's heart trembled slightly, nodding his head. It's all thanks to Master's teachings. Before it was disciple who was blinded by appearances. At this time he looked at the crowd again, his mood was much calmer, but he also wouldn't feel very happy because of the smiling faces in front of him. Only when his gaze came into contact with the majestic old man in the lead did Xiao Yan's face reveal a sincere smile. That is the old clan leader of the Xiao family, Xiao Yan's grandfather. After Xiao Yan's parents both passed away and after Xiao Yan's own cultivation regressed from genius to trash, he is one of the few people who have always cared for him. Xiao Yan knew his grandfather. Because his grandfather has always taken care of him and even withstood the pressure brought by many clan elders in the family, his grandfather has never said anything, only silently supporting and taking care of his grandson. After Xiao Yan's cultivation regressed, the old clan leader is one of the few warm colors in his life. And when Murong Yenran came to break off the engagement, the most humiliating one is the old clan leader, Xiao Yan. That engagement was originally made jointly by him and Murong Yenran's grandfather. Grandfather, I'm back. Xiao Yan landed on the ground, kneeling down in front of old patriarch Xiao like a mountain of gold and jade being toppled over. Ever since his parents both passed away, other than Lin Feng, this is the only person in this world that can make him pay such respect. There is no bright smile on the old clan leader's face. Instead, there is an endless sigh on his face. Looking at Xiao Yan, his eyes are full of joy and comfort. He gently pats Xiao Yan's shoulder and murmurs, "Good boy, good boy." Xiao Yan stands up and turns sideways to reveal Lin Feng, who is smiling at the grandfather and grandson. "Grandfather, this is my master." The old clan leader hurriedly salutes. This old man greets the master of Xianmen. "I thank the master of Xianmen for giving Yan a new lease of life." Lin Feng faintly smiles. "No need to be so courteous. The master leads the way, but the cultivation is up to the individual. If little Yan is not a promising talent, I would not be able to turn a rotten piece of wood into an unpolished jade." However, most people take his words as humble words. At this moment, all the young disciples of the Xiao family are looking at him and Xiao Yan with fervent eyes, imagining that if they can also be accepted as a disciple by Lin Feng, they will definitely be able to soar into the sky. Everyone salutes one by one. Xiao Yan, who has long been impatient, lightly tugs at the old clan leader's sleeve. "Grandfather, is Jin not here?" In the entire Xiao family, the two people that Xiao Yan is most concerned about are the old clan leader and Xiao Jin. The old clan leader sighs. "You should also know that Jin is actually not a disciple of my Xiao family. Over a year ago, Zhen's real family came to take her back. She has already left Wuzhou City." Hearing this, Xiao Yan is greatly disappointed, an uncontrollable sense of loss appearing on his face. "This is what she left for you." The old clan leader pats his grandson's hand, taking out a brocade pouch and handing it to Xiao Yan. "I can see that she really can't bear to part with you and has the idea of always staying in Wuzhou City to wait for you. But it seems that there is something that is hard to say. Don't blame her." Xiao Yan receives the brocade pouch and squeezes it. Feeling that there is a letter left inside, he silently nodded his head. Lin Feng's gaze sized up the Xiao family mansion that is currently being expanded, suddenly asking, "Clan leader Xiao, the materials that you used to renovate the old mansion are not the slightest bit ordinary?" The old clan leader is afraid that the Xiao family will leave a bad impression in Lin Feng's heart and affect Xiao Yan. Hearing this, he hurriedly explained, "A lot of the materials are indeed relatively rare and expensive, but they are all bestowed by our great Qin dynasty's crown prince Chongyun. The Xiao family really doesn't dare to refuse." Hearing this, Lin Feng's expression did not change, but the corners of his mouth revealed a light smile. Ancestor Qing Wei is a bit surprised, sizing up the Xiao family mansion, his face revealing a contemplative expression. Chapter 243. Bestowed by Crown Prince Chongyun? Qing Wei old ancestor was a little surprised hearing this and specially confirmed it. Old Patriarch Xiao naturally didn't dare to slight the Yuanying stage Qing Wei old ancestor and hurriedly gave an explanation. According to what old Patriarch Xiao said, Crown Prince Chongyun specially took care of the Xiao family. With his support, the Xiao family has been thriving in recent days and has successfully overwhelmed the other big families in Wuzhou that had been competing with them, becoming the #1 tyrant in Wuzhou. Xiao Yan suddenly realized something was wrong and carefully looked at his grandfather. "Grandpa, I almost didn't notice, you formed the golden elixir?" Before he left Wuzhou with Lin Feng, old Patriarch Xiao was only at the late stage of foundation building. Although he had already condensed the pill cauldron, he was already old and his qi and blood were gradually declining. The hope of forming the golden elixir was very slim. Old Patriarch Xiao obviously knew what Xiao Yan meant and said with a smile, "Crown Prince Chongyun bestowed the heaven-reaching pill and the barrier-breaking pill. After I took it, I successfully broke through the bottleneck and formed the core. Moreover, it was a jade pill." Hearing this, Qing Wei old ancestor's expression did not change, but his gaze became more gloomy. "Crown Prince Chongyun obviously already knows my intention of marrying Yanran, but now it seems that he doesn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with Xianmen Tianzong." Qing Wei old ancestor pondered, "If it's to compensate Xiao Yan that he treats the Xiao family so well, then it's okay. But if he just wants to be on good terms with Xianmen Tianzong and doesn't have any thoughts about nailing Yanran as a concubine, then it's very bad." Qing Wei old ancestor was now extremely conflicted. Murong Yanran running away made him very difficult. Crown Prince Chongyun agreed to the marriage, but the bride ran away, enlarging the Qin dynasty crown prince's refusal. Even the Celerida's sword sect had to weigh the consequences. If Crown Prince Chongyun didn't agree to the marriage, then the pressure on the great Qin dynasty side was naturally gone. But the master and disciple Lin Feng and Xiao Yan in front of him went to fulfill the challenge bet made the Celerida's sword sect unable to respond. While Qing Wei old ancestor was in pain and conflicted over there, Lin Feng's mouth revealed a light smile. However, this smile was a little strange. As expected, the Qin dynasty doesn't plan to be my enemy and forcefully turn against me. It's just that I originally thought it was the idea of their new prime minister. Lin Feng was slightly confused. Why would it be the order of Crown Prince Chongyun? The information that Lin Feng had gathered from all sorts of sources had vividly formed the image of the great Qin dynasty's crown prince, Chongyun. Arrogant, domineering, stubborn, possessive, and unwilling to give up until he achieved his goal. Strictly speaking, even in the cultivation world, such personality characteristics did not meet the requirements of the public for a crown prince. If it wasn't for the fact that the Qin emperor only had one son, it would have been difficult for the crown prince of Chongyun to become the crown prince. Combining the information from various sources, Crown Prince Chongyun had always been like this for many years. Basically, the possibility that he was putting on an act to disguise himself had been eliminated. Now, he was obviously trying to befriend Xianmen Tianzong, which was a huge contrast to his previous behavior. This made Lin Feng a bit curious. Interesting, what is this kid planning? Already decided to take Murong Yanran as a concubine, so to appease and compensate Xiao Yan? Or could it be that he never had any plans to form a marriage alliance with the Celerita sword sect and instead wants to get on good terms with Xianmen Tianzong? Interesting. Lin Feng faintly smiled. He came to Wuzhou City to see the Xiao family's situation and from there be able to judge the great Qin dynasty's attitude. But looking at it now, there was still a bit of a confusing feeling. If Crown Prince Chongyun had already decided to take Murong Yenran as a concubine and voluntarily took on the conflict of the Celeritas sword sect, then Lin Feng definitely wouldn't send Murong Yenran back. The Celeritas sword sect stood Crown Prince Chongyun up, so let the two of them slowly bite each other. But if Crown Prince Chongyun originally didn't plan to take Murong Yenran as a concubine, then Murong Yenran's disappearance instead satisfied his intentions. When the time comes when facing the Celeritas sword sect that has a guilty conscience, as long as he appropriately shows off his magnanimity, he can make the Celeritas sword sect lean towards him even more. There seemed to be a layer of fog in front of Lin Feng, and in the depths of the fog there seemed to be a pair of faintly discernible eyes carefully observing him. Wu Qingru, that new prime minister of the great Qin dynasty? Lin Feng gave a light laugh, gradually making a plan in his heart. You have 1,000 plans, I have an old idea, let's wait and see. Like what Xiao Yan said, they were just passing by Wuzhou City. After staying in Wuzhou for a short while, Xiao Yan once again said goodbye to old clan leader Xiao and followed Lin Feng and Qing Ao old ancestor towards the Celeritas sword sect's cloud-traversing peak. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the cloud-traversing peak, Qing Ao old ancestor also became more and more anxious. Suddenly, his face revealed an expression of astonishment. Thinking that it was because he was too anxious that his mind became absent-minded, Qing Ao old ancestor once again released his divine sense. After searching carefully, he couldn't help but be even more astonished. The old man suddenly discovered that the Murong Yenran that he had been searching for a few days was actually on a small mountain near the cloud-traversing peak, right under the eyes of the Celeritas sword sect. It's just that she seemed to have fallen into a coma, her mind not clear. Qing Ao old ancestor secretly glanced at Lin Feng beside him, seeing that Lin Feng's expression was as usual, as if he didn't notice anything. Even though his heart was full of question marks, Qing Ao old ancestor still let out a light sigh of relief, splitting out a bit of mana to that small mountain and sweeping up Murong Yenran. While Qing Ao old ancestor introduced the various sceneries on the cloud-traversing peak to Lin Feng and his disciple as if nothing had happened, at the same time he released a bit of sword energy to wake Murong Yenran up from her deep sleep. Murong Yenran woke up, opening her eyes to a green color. In the green mist of the mana space, a wisp of Qing Ao old ancestor's soul appeared, projecting a ray of light, looking at her expressionlessly. Disciple greets Grandmaster. Murong Yenran bowed down gracefully. Qing Ao old ancestor said lightly, if you don't want to marry into the royal family, just tell Tong Ling or me, I won't force you. Murong Yenran had completely recovered her calmness at this moment, saying softly, Disciple was bewitched before, now I've figured it out. I'm willing to accept all the punishment for the mistakes I made before. Qing Ao old ancestor shook his head. As long as Murong Yenran was found, the matter of punishment or not could be discussed later. What he cared about now was another matter. Tell me everything that happened after you left the cloud-traversing peak in full detail. Lin Feng didn't erase Murong Yenran's memory and consciousness of seeing him. Doing so was likely to hurt Murong Yenran's soul, and it would leave traces which would be seen by others. Even if Qing Ao old ancestor couldn't see it, Flashing Light Sword Venerable who had cultivated the primordial spirit would definitely be able to see it. Lin Feng already had his own plan in mind, so he didn't care that the Celeritas sword sect knew the whole story. As for the Celeritas sword sect would wonder why he sent Murong Yenran back, let them waste their brains to guess. Qing Ao old ancestor now felt that his head was hurting. He stared at Murong Yenran and said with a frown, You mean that the master of Xian Gate has already guessed that Crown Prince Chongyun might take you as a concubine? Even so, he still let you go? Murong Yenran at this moment was already quite calm about the marriage, calmly answering, although he didn't come to a clear conclusion, but from the meaning of his words, he also thinks that disciple will marry Crown Prince Chongyun. Qing Ao old ancestor was tangled again. What he was most afraid of was that after Lin Feng knew the whole story, he would secretly detain Murong Yenran and then go to the cloud-traversing peak to ask for her. At that time, Crown Prince Chongyun, who had been stood up by the Celeritas sword sect, would come to the Celeritas sword sect. With the two-pronged attack, the Celeritas sword sect who had shot themselves in the foot would be in big trouble. But now Lin Feng actually took the initiative to let Murong Yenran back, which made Qing Aw Old Ancestor unable to figure it out. Forget it, let's go back to the mountain first. Qing Aw Old Ancestor couldn't figure it out, so he simply stopped thinking about it. After returning to the mountain and telling the elders, everyone could go and worry about it together. Lin Feng clearly knew that Qing Aw Old Ancestor secretly took back Murong Yenran's little action. The corner of his mouth revealed a light smile, looking at the distant horizon. That is the cloud-traversing peak, right? In the distance, between the rolling mountains, a pale golden mountain silently floated above the mountains. Unlike the other mountains that gave off a majestic and steady feeling, the light golden mountain peak was more like a floating cloud. The cliffs and rocks at the edge of the mountain peak could even be seen changing shape. But inside that cloud-shaped mountain peak, Lin Feng could faintly feel a sharp sword intent, changing unpredictably yet showing off its edge. Between the rolling and unfolding clouds, there seemed to be infinite sword light flashing dazzlingly. Qing Aw Old Ancestor smiled and said, "This is the location of the Dark Cloud Sect. Cloud Traversing Peak, Sect Leader Lin, please." Before his voice died away, endless clouds and mist suddenly emerged on the cloud-traversing peak. Immediately after, the clouds and mist dispersed to both sides, as if the clouds were parted to see the sun. A golden staircase extended out from the cloud-traversing peak and came to the front of Lin Feng and the others. At the other end of the staircase stood 7 people, tall and short, fat and thin, men and women. But without exception, a terrifying mana fluctuation flowed all over their bodies, as if they could tear the void at any time. They didn't show the slightest aggressiveness, all the sword chi on their bodies were restrained, but just standing there gave people a huge visual impact. 7 Yuanying Old Ancestors personally came to greet the sect. Not only did they want to treat Lin Feng courteously, but they also wanted to show off their strength. At least as far as Lin Feng knew, the Yuanying stage cultivators of the Celeritas sword sect were not only the 7 people in front of him, plus the 8 old ancestors beside him. Lin Feng looked up and saw that they seemed to be one with the void, real and illusory. This was the characteristic of those who had practiced the Celeritas sword sect's Dao technique to an extremely high realm. What made Lin Feng even more concerned was that on the cloud-traversing peak, there was vaguely an extremely valiant will that was constantly paying attention to him. That valiant will made Lin Feng feel a sense of uneasiness and fear rise from the bottom of his heart. Without a doubt, the only person in the Celeritas sword sect who could give him pressure was the primordial spirit realm Celeritas sword lord. Among the 7 Yuanying old ancestors who came to greet the sect, a middle-aged scholarly-looking old ancestor in the middle smiled and said, "The master of Xian Gate has graced us with your presence. The entire hidden sect is honored by your presence. The master of the hidden sect is currently waiting on the cloud-traversing peak and specially ordered us to come and greet the master of Xian Gate. If we have been impolite, I hope that the Xian Gate does not take offense." Lin Feng faintly smiled, but his body did not move. Instead he looked towards the little guy beside him. The little guy immediately understood Lin Feng's meaning, chuckling and walking forward first. Chapter 244. The 7 Yuanying ancestors of the Celeritas sword sect welcoming the door was both a display of courtesy and also a hint of a demonstration. Lin Feng seeing this faintly smiled, his body did not move and looked towards the little guy beside him. The little guy immediately understood his master's meaning, laughing mischievously, the tip of his feet lightly tapping Black Dragon Jieyu below. Lin Feng, Xiao Yan, Tunten and Yu Hongyan all came down from Jieyu's body. The little guy alone urged Black Dragon Jieyu to step onto the stairs completely made of transparent golden light leading to the Xingyun Peak. The little guy's voice at the moment had not started to change, his child's voice was still clear and pleasant to listen to. Xianmen Tianzong disciple Shi Tianhao thanks the seniors of the Celeritas sword sect on behalf of my master, and also greets the flowing light sword god. Jieyu did not say anything, his body landing on the golden light stairs and with a low roar, A vast dragon's might rolled over, directly causing the golden light stairs to violently shake like water waves. The dragon race's innate talent is a level higher than others. Jieyu, who has already formed a demon nascent soul and achieved the position of demon king, facing the 7 great Yuanying ancestors of the Celerita sword sect, he did not show any fear. At the other end of the stairs, a Yuanying ancestor of the Celerita's sword sect revealed a look of dissatisfaction when he saw the situation. The middle-aged scholar-like ancestor beside him slightly shook his head, transmitting, "Don't fall behind." Jieyu's actions seemed impolite, but in reality he left some leeway. He had the ability to completely shatter the golden light stairs with 1 foot, but he did not do so. "Senior brother Ziyun, we also don't let people look down on us." The only female ancestor among the 7 opened her mouth and said indifferently. As she spoke, her feet lightly stomped and her magic power poured into the golden light stairs. The swaying golden light immediately stabilized. Jieyu's pair of dragon eyes slightly narrowed. He discovered that no matter how much force he used, the golden light stairs remained stable and did not move. Lin Feng saw this and laughed in his heart. "Middle Yuanying cultivator, huh? If that's the case, in terms of magic power he indeed surpasses Jieyu, who has just formed a demon nascent soul. But Jieyu's forte lies in physical strength. In actual combat it is still hard to say who will win and who will lose." The specialty of early Yuanying cultivators was to comprehend some of the mysteries of space and form Yuanying. As for the Yuanying middle stage cultivators, they began to absorb the 9 heavens' pure qi into their bodies, further enhancing their magic power and nourishing the Yuanying. When Yuanying reached a certain level of power, cultivators could start to try to condense the Dharma idol of heaven and earth and cultivate the Dharma idol of heaven and earth, reaching the late stage of Yuanying. This female Yuanying ancestor of the Celerita's sword sect is a middle-stage Yuanying cultivator who has already guided the clear qi of the 9 heavens into her body to nourish. Tiny Tot, who was on Jieyu's body, smiled and cupped his fists. "Shenmen Tianzong disciple Shi Tianhao greets the 7 seniors." As he spoke, the 9 orifices of the golden elixir formed a world of its own, violently absorbing and spitting out spiritual energy. A vast and majestic aura rolled over. Even Yuanying cultivators raised their eyebrows. The eyes of the middle-aged scholar like ancestor Violet Cloud flashed as he thought to himself, "The green mist didn't exaggerate. This kid's strength is indeed blessed by the heavens. If he has the assistance of a Yuanying magic tool, he can indeed fight against a Yuanying cultivator. He's still only at the early stage golden elixir. He still can't truly use the vast amount of spiritual energy in nature, otherwise his magic power would be even more shocking. When he reaches the middle stage golden elixir, not to mention other things, just based on the total amount of magic power, I'm afraid he will already be comparable to a Yuanying cultivator." Ancestor Violet Cloud slightly frowned. "Not cultivating the primordial true water and still able to have such powerful magic power, it's really rare. I heard that Xiao Yan's strength is not the slightest bit below him. This time my Celerita's sword sect has really run into a problem." On their side, together with Ancestor Qing Wei, they set up a formation of 8 Yuanying cultivators. The other side only sent out 1 person and 1 dragon, and this momentum was offset. Indeed, Jieyu was only at the early stage Demon King and had just formed his nascent soul, but he was from the dragon race. Ancestor Violet Cloud, Ancestor Qing Wei and the others were all elders with high positions of power in the Celerita's sword sect, and Jieyu? To put it bluntly, a bit harshly, he was Lin Feng's mount. Xiao Budian right now was only at the early stage of the golden elixir, not to mention comparing with Ancestor Violet Cloud, Ancestor Qing Wei and the others, there were a lot of people at the early stage of the golden elixir in the Celerita's sword sect. But at the age of less than 12, forming a golden elixir, and even having the ability to fight against the Yuanying ancestor in actual combat, this kind of shocking talent, this kind of potential prospects, let alone the Celerita's sword sect, looking at the entire heaven primal world, how many people could there be? Ancestor Violet Cloud secretly sighed in his heart, but also faintly looked forward to it. I heard that this little guy is at odds with the great Qin dynasty's Shi family's genius legend Shi Tianyi. If the two of them fight together, What kind of result will there be? In all fairness, what made the big shots of the Celeritas sword sect fear and value was Xiao Budian's potential. Even though his current strength also brought pressure to the group of Yuanying ancestors, but it was still within the scope of what they could handle. Xiao Budian was currently still in his own growth period, and geniuses who die prematurely will never be true geniuses. The Xiao Yan who recently gave the entire Celeritas sword sect endless headaches was also the same logic. But as soon as the few Yuanying ancestors looked at the calmly smiling Lin Feng standing in the clouds, they all sighed together. This person was the key. With a master like this protecting, ordinary people shouldn't think of killing Xiao Budian, Xiao Yan, and the rest before they matured. The only female among the 7 people, Ancestor Crimson Cloud slightly shook her head, exchanging a glance with Ancestor Violet Cloud, both smiling bitterly in their hearts. Lin Feng personally brought Xiao Yan to settle the score. From top to bottom, it wasn't that the Celeritas sword sect didn't think of a bloody battle, leaving behind this pair of master and disciple together. In any case, they were overseeing the cloud-traversing peak's home ground, waiting for Xiao Yan to exhaust himself. Even if Lin Feng had the ability to fight sword Venerable Flowing Light, if he dared to attack the Celeritas sword sect's mountain gate, he would only be able to walk the path of nursing a grievance. Relying on the cloud-traversing peak's geographical advantage and unleashing the power of their sect's mountain-protecting grand formation to the limit, Sword Venerable Flowing Light did not fear all enemies of the same level of cultivation. But only facing Lin Feng, the Celeritas sword sect from top to bottom no longer had absolute confidence. On one hand, Lin Feng's own cultivation was unfathomable from beginning to end. Outsiders were all unable to figure out his details. On the other hand, Yujing Mountain could travel through time. Once Sword Venerable Flowing Light wanted to take advantage of the terrain, Lin Feng only needed to think and he would be able to summon Yujing Mountain over. At that time, the result would be the Mountain Gate Grand Formation clashing against the Mountain Gate Grand Formation. In some sense, Lin Feng could be counted as the person least afraid of going deep into the hinterland of other people's Mountain Gate. Any geographical home ground advantage did not exist in front of him, because he could instantly turn the opponent's home ground into a neutral ground. So much so that he could even turn the original away ground into his own home ground. Those who come from afar are guests. Why doesn't Sect Master Lin come in to meet me? At this time, an illusory, smoke-like voice reverberated in the sky above cloud-traversing peak. Within the indifferent tone, it faintly carried a piercing sharpness. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Sect Master Flowing Light is too polite. Finished speaking, with a roll of his sleeve, he had already directly passed through the boundless clouds, bringing along Xiao Budian, Xiao Yan, and the others to land on cloud-traversing peak together. At the summit of cloud-traversing peak, an exquisite hall stood towering between the clouds and mist. At the entrance of the hall, a white-clothed middle-aged man was currently standing there silently, his gaze looking straight at Lin Feng who landed on the empty ground in front of the hall. Lin Feng's expression was calm, also currently sizing up this white-clothed middle-aged man. Only to see that this person's face was like a crown jade, black hair like a waterfall, looking to be no more than 40 years old. Only the 2 sides of his temples had 2 strands of snow-white hair hanging down. His eyes were filled with dignity. Even if he had never seen him before, Lin Feng could also be sure that this white-clothed middle-aged man was the Celeritas sword sect's current sect master, a big shot who had already achieved primordial spirit and achieved Tao and longevity, Celeritas sword lord Flowing Light. This person also did not reveal any special aura or mana aura, but just by standing there, he seemed to faintly merge with heaven and earth, but also transcend and independent of heaven and earth. Lin Feng looked at him, and actually had a feeling that he could not grasp his specific position. This kind of feeling was still the first time Lin Feng encountered after forming Yuanying. Celeritas sword lord was similarly also observing Lin Feng. What made him mind was that with his realm, he actually also could not see through the depth of Lin Feng's cultivation. Lin Feng of course could not be an ordinary person who completely did not cultivate Tao techniques, but reaching the primordial spirit realm, all magic tools or spells that conceal cultivation were already useless. Sect Master Lin coming to my cloud-traversing peak this time is for the bet between your sect's disciples? Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light's tone was calm, but his words did not conceal in the slightest, fully reflecting the characteristics of a sword cultivator, showing off his ability. Reaching his realm, there was indeed no need for any false words or concealment. Everything was according to his heart, straightforward. Lin Feng did not stand on ceremony either, saying faintly with a smile, "I wonder what instruction Sect Master Flowing Light has for me?" Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light did not speak, the gaze that looked at Lin Feng, the sharpness in his eyes becoming more and more intense. Lin Feng was the opposite, the light in his eyes becoming more and more serene, calmly meeting eyes with Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light, but making Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light more and more fearful. Lin Feng's meaning was already very clear, the bet must be carried out, he would not go and ruin his own disciple's stage. After a long time, the sword-like light in Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light's eyes gradually converged, nodding his head. "Since that's the case, then our disciples will each rely on their own ability." Lin Feng nodded his head lightly, "That's how it should be." However, the contents of the bet will also involve other people. Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light suddenly changed the topic. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent, the corner of his lips curling up. "Isn't it already here?" As he spoke, there was an extremely strong energy wave coming from afar. The target was Cloud Traversing Peak. The other party stopped outside Cloud Traversing Peak, and a rather ear-piercing voice that sounded like metal rubbing against each other rang out. "Great Qin's Shi Chongyun has specially come to pay a visit. I hope that Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light can spare some time to meet you." Celerita's sword Lord Flowing Light pointed casually, the clouds in the sky dispersed, and a group of people landed on the Cloud Traversing Peak. The person in the lead walked with a coiled dragon and tiger gait. His appearance was not handsome and his skin was dark, but there was a faint domineering aura that could devour the world. He wore an apricot yellow robe. Embroidered on the robe was not a four-clawed python, but a five-clawed true dragon. However, unlike the Emperor's dragon robe which had 9 true dragons, his robe had 4 true dragons, and the color of the robe was not bright yellow, but apricot yellow. Such attire was the attire of the Great Qin Dynasty's crown prince. The identity of the person who came was also obvious, it was the Great Qin Dynasty's crown prince. Chapter 245. Lin Feng looked at Crown Prince Chongyun who was walking over and gave a low laugh, using mana to transmit to Xiao Yan. "Xiao Yan, this is your love rival." Xiao Yan blanked. "He and Zhenu, it has nothing to do with Xiao Zhenu." Lin Feng also blanked out for a moment and then reacted, smiling saying, "This is the husband that the Celerita's sword sect prepared for Murong Yenran. Of course, whether or not they want Murong Yenran is another matter. Xiao Yan just has a careless personality but he's actually extremely smart." Lin Feng only lightly pointed and he realized what the Celerita's sword sect was planning. "What does Master think?" Xiao Yan's gaze flashed but he wasn't in a hurry to express his attitude. Instead he first asked for Lin Feng's opinion. Even if his 3-year goal could be interfered with, Xiao Yan still kept his cool. He will carefully consider Lin Feng's opinion. Lin Feng smiled faintly. "Xiao Yan, remember, us Xianmen Tianzong people are never greedy. But what others owe us we must pay." Xiao Yan thought for a moment. "Wuzhou City," Lin Feng answered. "It might not be the handiwork of this Crown Prince Chongyun, it's very possible that someone else borrowed his name." Hearing that, Xiao Yan instantly smiled. "With Master's words I can rest assured." Lin Feng, while communicating with Xiao Yan using mana to transmit his voice, he was also observing Crown Prince Chongyun and his party. As the heir of the Qin dynasty, no matter what Crown Prince Chongyun's personality is like, at least his talent and strength are worthy of this identity and position. His true age naturally won't be like the young man on the surface, but it's definitely not too old. Compared to his Yuanying realm cultivation, Crown Prince Chongyun's age is considered extremely young. Lin Feng can even feel a shocking mana fluctuation from his body. Even though it's extremely obscure, it really exists. Magic treasure? Lin Feng immediately came to an understanding. As the heir to the throne of the Qin dynasty, the imperial family would naturally bestow a magic treasure to protect him, and this was within his expectations. Moreover, the aura of this magic treasure was hidden very well. Ordinary Yuanian cultivators would not be able to detect it. Only primordial soul almighty cultivators or oddities like Lin Feng would be able to detect some traces of it. Lin Feng pondered for a moment before he figured out the crux of the matter. The reason why this magical treasure could be hidden so well was not because of its low profile, but because of its unique aura. It was extremely compatible with its owner, Crown Prince Chongyun. With the combination of the aura of the person and the treasure, it was able to conceal itself from most people. Although Crown Prince Chongyun had the aura of a true dragon and son of heaven, it wasn't strong enough. His most prominent aura was that of an aggressive tiger and wolf. He was domineering, greedy, and filled with wild vitality and ambition. It was as if he wanted to take all the good things in the world, and he took it for granted. It was no wonder that most of the factions in the Darqin dynasty did not think highly of him and did not want him to inherit the throne in the future. That magical treasure of his could be so compatible with his aura, it must be a powerful and domineering treasure. But how could such a treasure be suitable for the heir to the throne of the Qin dynasty? Did he choose it himself? Lin Feng thought to himself, seems like there are many tricks to this, or does this person have other trump cards? Behind Crown Prince Chongyun was a group of servants in black armor. All of them were silent, but their powerful aura indicated that even the weakest among them was a cultivator of the golden elixir period. This Crown Prince Chongyun was quite generous to have all of his servants in the golden elixir period. However, all of them, including Crown Prince Chongyun himself, could only attract 30 to 40% of Lin Feng's attention. Most of his attention was placed on an elder beside Crown Prince Chongyun. Although this elder stood behind Crown Prince Chongyun, he did not look like a follower at all. He was quiet and indifferent. His long robe was embroidered with stars that shone brightly under the sunlight. The patterns of the stars looked like they were alive, revolving continuously, deriving the most profound principles of the universe. Although he stood at the top of Xingyun Peak, he seemed to have left this world, and was standing in the universe, looking down at the mortal world. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed, primordial spirit adept. This Crown Prince Chongyun actually has a primordial spirit adept as his bodyguard? This elder could not be Shi Chongyun's follower, even if Shi Chongyun was the heir to the throne of the Qin dynasty. The only possibility was that this elder was an esteemed expert of the Qin dynasty, and was entrusted by the Qin emperor to protect Shi Chongyun. Even the Qin emperor could not order a primordial spirit adept around, and could only ask for help. If one owed a favor, one had to return it. However, the Qin royal family was rich, and they could afford to return the favor. Swordsman Flowing Light also noticed this old man immediately, and he clearly recognized him. So it's fellow Taoist Star Do. Haven't you been resting in Western Tomb City all this time? Why have you decided to make a move this time? Dao Master Xing Do smiled. I haven't seen you for some time, brother Flowing Light. This time Crown Prince Chongyun is coming, so I volunteered to go with him. Then it's my honor. Swordsman Flowing Light nodded, and after greeting Crown Prince Chongyun, he turned to Lin Feng and said, Sect Master Lin, let me introduce you. This is the heir to the throne of the Qin dynasty, Crown Prince Chongyun, and this is Dao Master Xing Do. Crown Prince Chongyun looked at Lin Feng and the others, and then his eyes stopped on Yu Hongyan, and he did not hide his aggressive gaze. With Lin Feng blocking in front of him, his Yuanying stage aura could not pressure Yu Hongyan. Yu Hongyan fearlessly looked at him, his eyes were cold, and his red eyebrows were like two blood-stained swords. Crown Prince Chongyun smiled, and then looked at Lin Feng, and said with a voice that sounded like metal clashing, So this is Xianmen Tianzong, Sect Master Lin? I've heard a lot about you. Lin Feng did not look at this kind of person who felt good about himself, but looked at Dao Master Xing Do. Nice to meet you. Crown Prince Chongyun suddenly frowned, and a gloomy and domineering aura leaked out, and looked at Lin Feng with an unfriendly expression. Dao Master Xing Do's expression did not change, and he glanced at Crown Prince Chongyun from the corner of his eyes, and said calmly, The name of the master of Xianmen has really resounded in my ears these days. There was a hint of sarcasm in his words, and how could Lin Feng not hear it? He smiled and said, "I'll get used to it." Dao Master Xingdo's eyes suddenly lit up, as if starlight had exploded. He stared at Lin Feng for a moment, and nodded, "I hope so." Crown Prince Chongyun stared at Lin Feng, and his aura became more and more unfriendly, but after a while, he had to shift his attention to the other side. Beside Lin Feng stood a youth dressed in purple with a black robe on the outside. He was looking at him with a smile that was not a smile. Crown Prince Chongyun looked at him from head to toe, and his eyes were cold and unfriendly. Xiao Yan looked at him with the same sneer. Crown Prince Chongyun turned to look at Lin Feng. "You don't know any manners. Is this the disciple of Xianmen Tianzong?" Lin Feng ignored him, and looked at swordsman Flowing Light. "Those who should be here are here. When do we start?" The Crown Prince Chongyun raised his eyebrows, and just when he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Xiao Yan. "We, Xianmen Tianzong, have always been well-mannered, but that's only for those who know how to behave, and we don't pay attention to those who are rude. Manners are not that cheap." Crown Prince Chongyun finally looked at Xiao Yan, but not because he had put away his pride. Before, he didn't put Xiao Yan in his eyes at all, and didn't take Xiao Yan's rudeness to heart, just like how a person wouldn't lower themselves to the level of a dog baring its teeth. But now, this baring dog was annoying him, and he was ready to kill this dog. Crown Prince Chongyun said coldly, "Lord Lin, this disciple of yours is too noisy. I have no choice but to kill him." Xiao Yan snickered. "With just you?" As he spoke, both of his eyes lit up with dazzling flames, one golden, the other violet. Seeing the golden and purple flames, Crown Prince Chongyun became a bit more serious, nodding his head. "So you are Xiao Yan, true sunfire, nether evil flame, having two great true fires at the same time. You are not ordinary." After the battle in the Sand Continent, Xianmen Tianzong's disciples became famous, and the Qin dynasty's intelligence network was on point. As the heir to the throne, Crown Prince Chongyun naturally had first-hand information. But his arrogance did not change, and he said lightly, "But you, who only have the cultivation of the golden elixir period, still have a long way to go." Lin Feng looked with interest at Crown Prince Chongyun, who was going against Xiao Yan, and thought, "Looks like the special care the Xiao family received in Wuzhou City did not come from this person's order. Not only that, he doesn't seem to know at all. Hee, it's getting more and more interesting." Lin Feng did not speak, and Flowing Light Swordsman, Xian Ancestor, Qing AI Ancestor, and the others were even more silent. The result in front of them was exactly what they had been dreaming of. Before Murong Yenran was involved, Crown Prince Chongyun had already gone against Xiao Yan. Everything was going so smoothly that even Qing AI Ancestor began to be suspicious, fearing that something was wrong. "Your Highness is too fast, it took me a while to catch up." At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the sky. "Junior Tanningjie greets Flowing Light Swordsman, Master of Xianmen, and Master Xingdo." Tanningjie? Flowing Light Swordsman and Master Xingdo looked at each other. Obviously both of them had heard of this person's name. Flowing Light Swordsman said calmly, "It's rare for the Xingyun Peak to be so lively today." With a stroke of his finger, the clouds dispersed, and a middle-aged man in blue fell from the sky. His mana and cultivation shook the void. It was a Yuanian cultivator. After this Tanningjie landed, he bowed to Lin Feng, Flowing Light Swordsman, and Master Xingdo one by one. As soon as he appeared, Crown Prince Chongyun frowned. "Tanningjie, what are you doing here? Did Prime Minister Wu order you to come?" Tanningjie said with a smile, "I am indeed here on Prime Minister Wu's request, but it's just to send something to Flowing Light Swordsman, nothing else. Your Highness, please don't blame me." He looked at Lin Feng with a smile. "However, it seems that this is a grand event. I wonder if I can have the honor to be a spectator?" Lin Feng looked at Tanningjie silently, and at the same time, he received a voice transmission from Black Dragon Jieyu. "Master, this person's surname is Tan, and he has a close relationship with the Qin dynasty. It is very likely that he is from the Tan family, one of the 7 great families of the ancient Yuan Tian realm." Chapter 246. Sect Master, this person's surname is Tan, and he has a close relationship with the Qin Empire. It's very likely that he's from the Tan family, one of the 7 great families of the ancient Yuan Heaven realm. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed when he received Jie Yu's voice transmission. He had never heard of the Tan family, but he had heard of them in the ancient Yuan Heaven realm. The 2 main parts of the Great Heaven realm were the human world, known as the Divine Land, and the demon world, known as the Infinite Wasteland. Surrounding these 2 great thousand worlds, with them as the core, there were many alternate dimensions that together formed the complete Great Heaven primal world. Among them, there were dangerous spaces like the void battlefield that were desolate and chaotic, full of void storms. There were also many more stable spaces that were rich in spiritual energy and had a lot of precious lives or minerals. They were suitable for human beings or demons to cultivate and live in. These dimensions were usually called medium-class worlds. There were many of them hidden in the void. Some had already been discovered and developed, while others had yet to appear. Silently, they waited for the fated one. This was how the so-called myriad worlds came to be. After thousands of years of development, the population of the vast thousand realms had steadily increased, and there were more and more cultivators. Some cultivation resources could be regenerated, recycled, and cultivated, but some could not be regenerated. The more they were used, the less they would be used. Many heaven and earth treasures were already extinct in the vast land of the Divine Continent and Tianhuang mainland. But these things still existed in some medium-class worlds. Therefore, many sects in the vast thousand realms devoted themselves to developing them. The ancient Yuan Heaven realm was a relatively large medium-class world, and it had been developed by human cultivators millions of years ago. That was why it was called an ancient realm. The 7 great clans of the ancient Origin Heaven realm were basically the representatives of the divine prefecture's major forces in the ancient Origin Heaven realm. For example, Tan Yingjia's Tan family represented the interests of the Qin Empire in the ancient Yuan Heaven realm. Many cultivation resources in the ancient Yuan Heaven realm were supplied to the Qin Empire in the Divine Land through the Tan family. This person claims to be here on Wu Qingruo's orders. It seems that Wu Qingru has indeed gained a foothold in the Qin Empire. She can even mobilize the Qin Empire's forces in the outer realms. Tan Yingjia was polite, but Lin Feng did not look down on him. There were many extinct resources in the Divine Land, but the outer realms often had their own unique spatial laws. Although the ancient Yuan-Tian realm could also create all things, strangely enough, there was no tribulation thunder. There was normal heavenly thunder, but there was no tribulation thunder that could shatter the void. This meant that cultivators could only reach the late golden elixir stage, unable to form a nascent soul in the ancient Yuan Heaven realm. If the cultivators of the ancient Origin Heaven realm wanted to reach the nascent soul stage, they had to come to the divine prefecture. This was also the reason why the Qin dynasty and other powers could control the 7 great clans of the ancient Origin Heaven realm. Using the Tan clan as an example, the number of late golden core cultivators from the Tan clan coming to the vast thousand domains to undergo the thunder tribulation and form their nascent soul would be controlled by the Qin dynasty. Under these circumstances, Tan Yingjie, as a Yuanian cultivator, stayed in the boundless world instead of returning to the ancient Yuan Heaven realm. He was likely the spokesperson of the Tan family, serving as a bridge between the 2 sides. His status in the Tan family was not low. For such a person to run errands for Wu Qingru, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel admiration towards Great Qin's new prime minister. Lin Feng thought about it and said, "Daoist Tan is too polite. I don't mind, but I'll have to ask Master Flowing Light first." Swordsman Flowing Light's eyes flickered. "It's fine. You can stay and watch the ceremony. What did Wu Qingru ask you to bring me?" Crown Prince Chongyun looked over and stared expressionlessly at Tan Yingjie. Tan Yingjie shook his head. "I don't know what it is. Minister Wu only said that Swordsman Flowing Light would know after seeing it." He took out a jade scroll and politely handed it to Swordsman Flowing Light. Crown Prince Chongyun stared at the jade scroll. His eyes flickered, but he didn't say anything. Swordsman Flowing Light's movements paused for a moment. After a moment of silence, he nodded. "I'll consider his suggestion. I'll give him an answer later." Tan Yingjie smiled. "I'm here as a messenger. You don't have to be so polite. He glanced at Lin Feng and smiled. I'm here for another matter. I'm here to represent Minister Wu to invite the Celeritas Sword Sect and Xianmen Tianzong to attend the opening ceremony of the ancient desolate sea realm in a month's time. Hearing this, Lin Feng turned his head and looked towards Venerable Streamlight, and Venerable Streamlight also did the same. After the two of them looked at each other, Lin Feng's gaze once again looked towards Tanningjie, asking, 1 month later? The ancient desolate sea realm was the same as the ancient Yuan heaven realm. It was a medium-class realm independent of the Great Thousand World. Compared to the ancient Yuan heaven realm, the spatial laws of the ancient desolate sea realm were even stranger. It only allowed cultivators below Yuaning to enter. There was a spatial gap between the ancient Yuan heaven realm and the divine land. However, the ancient desolate sea realm was different. The gate that connected to the divine land was usually sealed and would only open after a period of time. The gate to the ancient desolate sea realm was located at the northern border of the Great Qin dynasty. After a long period of dispute, all the major forces reluctantly acknowledged the Great Qin dynasty's right to deal with the gate. In exchange, the Great Qin dynasty would invite the other major forces to participate in a grand event every time the gate to the ancient desolate sea realm opened. They would host a desolate sea realm assembly. During the assembly, the various forces would send their best disciples below Yuaning to compete. The winner would obtain a place to enter the ancient desolate sea realm. After many years of development, the desolate sea assembly gradually became a grand event. Most of the time, it was not for the place to enter the ancient desolate sea realm, but a grand event for the various forces to test each other's strength and understand each other's potential. Tanningjie said, exactly. In 30 days, the gate to the ancient desolate sea realm will reopen. I thank the Great Qin dynasty for their invitation. If all goes well, the disciples of my Xianmen Tianzong will participate in this grand event as scheduled. Lin Feng nodded slightly and gave a definite answer. He was now thinking of ways to expand the influence of his sect and raise the sect's reputation. He naturally would not miss such an opportunity. Lin Feng glanced at Crown Prince Chongyun from the corner of his eyes, only to find that his emotions had suddenly calmed down. When he heard that Tanningjie had received Wu Qingrou's order to invite Lin Feng, the Crown Prince was stunned for a moment before his eyes burned with endless anger. This anger was far greater than the anger he felt when Xiao Yan went against him. Gloomy, cold, and filled with endless killing intent. Clearly, Crown Prince Chongyun was completely unaware of Wu Qingrou's arrangements. But after a short moment of anger, he suddenly calmed down. Regarding Wu Qingrou's decision to invite Xianmen Tianzong and the Celeritas Sword Sect to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly, Crown Prince Chongyun did not react at all. He did not express any opinion, as if the entire matter had nothing to do with him. Lin Feng was amazed, but Tanningjie smiled bitterly in his heart. He remembered Wu Qingrou's instructions before he left. If the Crown Prince and that Xianmen Tianzong have a conflict, you have to send the invitation in person. Remember this, remember this. Wu Xiang, you're basically slapping him in the face and adding oil to the fire. Tanningjie sighed. Looking at the seemingly calm Crown Prince Chongyun, he knew that he had to give him an explanation later. This Crown Prince was already on the verge of exploding. According to the past news, Shi Chongyun is considered a very powerful Crown Prince. But now Wu Qingru is using him as a decoration. What does this mean? Lin Feng silently looked at Crown Prince Chongyun and Tanningjie, countless thoughts flashing through his mind. The Qin Emperor wants to change the Crown Prince? Forget it, he doesn't have a second son. Wait. Lin Feng's pupils suddenly constricted. That Shi Tianyi who took away Xiao Budian's Dao Foundation has become famous in the Qin dynasty. He's hailed as a destined heaven's chosen legend. Among the 4 major clans of the Qin dynasty, the Shi family is the most special, because the Shi family is a branch of the royal family. Lin Feng thought of many things in an instant. If the Qin Emperor proposes to let Shi Tianyi be adopted into the royal family, just as Lin Feng was pondering, the Celeritas Sword Sect also happily agreed to the Qin dynasty's invitation. Celeritas Sword Venerable looked at Lin Feng, then looked at Xiao Yan behind him and said, There are still 4 days until the agreed date between Yenran and your disciple. After 4 days, let's have them fight here. What do you think, Master Lin? You remember the date very clearly. Lin Feng knew that Celerita's sword venerable would definitely make some arrangements within these 4 days. But he was not afraid and turned to look at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's expression was calm as he slowly nodded. Master, I have no problem. Lin Feng nodded and looked at Celerita's sword venerable. Let's do as Sect Master Lu Guang says. Qing AI, please invite Sect Master Lin and his disciple to rest at their residence. Celerita's sword venerable ordered indifferently. Ancestor Qing AI bowed and led Lin Feng and the others to the guest room to rest. Behind them, Crown Prince Chongyun looked at Tan Jie expressionlessly. Lin Feng smiled slightly and no longer paid attention to him. He leisurely followed Ancestor Qing AI to a cave residence and settled down. Sitting in the cave residence, Lin Feng released his divine sense and saw Xiao Budian and Tunten standing outside their cave residence. Four eyes stared at the Xingyun Peak outside. Xiao Budian asked softly, "Is there anything delicious on the Xingyun Peak?" He swallowed his saliva. "Of course there is, Celerita's sword sex Juyuha is very famous." Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. He looked at another cave residence. Xiao Yan was sitting cross-legged silently with his eyes slightly closed. Apparently he was making the final preparations. In Yu Hongyan's cave residence, the little girl was also sitting cross-legged, meditating. In terms of the degree of hard work and cultivation, perhaps only Wang Lin could compare with her under Lin Feng's tutelage. Both of them were the same, not wasting a minute or a second. After nightfall, Lin Feng, who was resting in the cave residence, suddenly felt something and sneered, "Do you want to die?" In the middle of the night, one of Shi Chongyun's attendants came to the outside of Yu Hongyan's cave residence. Chapter 247. Lin Feng's divine sense reached out and saw a golden elixir period cultivator dressed in black armor outside Yu Hongyan's cave dwelling. It was one of the attendants who followed Chongyun Crown Prince during the day. He seemed to know that he couldn't hide it from Lin Feng. With a humble smile on his face, he first bowed in the direction of Lin Feng's cave dwelling and then let out a low whistle outside Yu Hongyan's cave dwelling. After doing all this, the person turned around and left. Lin Feng looked on coldly and saw Yu Hongyan quickly leave the cave dwelling with a slightly excited expression on her face. "Master, that person imitated the sound of a beast just now. It's an imitation of a snow civet, a rare beast unique to our Snowgale country. That person might be a compatriot of our Snowgale country." Even though his emotions were fluctuating, Yu Hongyan still reported to Lin Feng at the first moment. Lin Feng sat still in the cave dwelling. He smiled and transmitted his voice to her, "Then let's follow and see." Yu Hongyan took a deep breath and calmed herself down before chasing after the person. The person walked towards the depths of the Xingyun Peak. Yu Hongyan calmly followed behind while Lin Feng's divine sense followed them all the way. When they arrived in front of a cave, the person stopped and turned around to look at Yu Hongyan with a smile. When Yu Hongyan saw the person's appearance, the smile on her face suddenly became stiff. The excitement of meeting a compatriot in a foreign land disappeared. She looked coldly at the middle-aged man in front of her. "Isn't this Mr. Wang Jianan? When Dog Zhou invaded our Snowgale country, you were the first to submit to him. Why are you now working for the Great Qin Empire? Could it be that even Dog Zhou can't tolerate a traitor like you who betrays his compatriots?" Yu Hongyan's style of speaking was the same as her fighting style. Straightforward, leaving no room for negotiation. She was no stranger to Wang Jianan. He was even the first teacher of her and her brother Yu Hongfeng. But because of this, she hated him even more. Even though Wang Jianan was mentally prepared, his face still turned red. However, he quickly adjusted his emotions and smiled at Yu Hongyan. "Hongyan, you misunderstood. You were still young at the time, so there were many things you didn't know. When the Great Zhou dynasty invaded Snowgale, I was indeed among the first batch of people to join them. But that was just feigning civility. My heart has always been on the side of Snowgale. Joining the Great Zhou dynasty's camp was just a method to better serve my true goal." Wang Jianan spoke frankly with assurance. Unfortunately, it didn't work in the end. Snowgale country was still destroyed, so I couldn't continue serving the Zhou Empire. The Zhou Empire is powerful. This is an objective fact. If we want to avenge Snowgale and restore our country, we need external help. The Great Qin Empire is the most suitable help. Seeing that Yu Hongyan didn't speak, he thought that Yu Hongyan was moved by him. He quickly struck while the iron was hot. Hongyan, there is a good opportunity before us. Crown Prince Chongyun will definitely inherit the throne. With his help, we will have the hope to restore our country. Yu Hongyan interrupted him coldly. Why would he help us? Wang Jianan smiled. Hongyan, I have to say, this is your good fortune. Crown Prince Chongyun had the intention to marry you when he saw you today. Although he already has a concubine, the concubine position is still empty. Suddenly, Yu Hongyan burst into a burst of laughter, his body shaking like a flower. Wang Jianan's expression slowly changed because he couldn't hear any joy from Yu Hongyan's laughter. Instead, it sounded bitter and resentful. Yu Hongyan suddenly stopped laughing and looked at Wang Jianan coldly. He said calmly and coldly, Wang Jianan, I appreciate your master's good intentions. However, Yu Hongyan is just an ordinary person. I don't deserve your respect. You made such a farce to target my master, Shenmen Tianzong, and my master, right? Yu Hongyan raised his head and looked at the dark sky. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land should be a happy event. Who knew that we are already strangers or even enemies? You can fool ghosts with your lies. Yu Hongyan said coldly, Wang Jianan leave. I will let this matter go. It is not because you are an old friend, but because this is the Xingyun Peak. It is not convenient for me to fight with you. Wang Jianan's expression changed slightly. Hongyan, Yu Hongyan said silently, scram. Yu Hongyan, don't be so ungrateful. Wang Jianan's face showed anger. As a golden elixir period cultivator, he was being disrespected by a foundation establishment stage cultivator, who was also his former student. Whether it was in terms of strength or mentality, Wang Jianan couldn't suppress his anger. He was not outstanding among the subordinates of Crown Prince Chongyun. It was not easy for him to make a connection with Yu Hongyan and wanted to make a contribution. However, he failed on the verge of success. Yu Hongyan did not give him any face at all, which made him a little angry. Looking at Wang Jianan coldly, Yu Hongyan's face was expressionless. His reply was still only one word. Scram. Think about what happened today carefully. But don't blame me for not warning you. Crown Prince Chongyun won't wait for you for long. Wang Jianan stared at Yu Hongyan. After a long while, he finally suppressed his anger and said patiently, Scram. Yu Hongyan glared at him. Red flames danced in his eyes. Wang Jianan flung his sleeves and walked away with a pale face. Yu Hongyan stared at Wang Jianan's back. His fists were already clenched. After a long while, he said hoarsely, Master, I want to kill him. Lin Feng's figure stepped out from the void beside her. He said calmly, Don't be impatient. I will give you the chance very soon. He turned to look at Yu Hongyan. Are you more disappointed or angry? Yu Hongyan pursed his lips and sighed after a long while, disappointed. Lin Feng faintly smiled. Let's go back and rest. The corner of his mouth slightly curled up. Tomorrow will be very lively. As Lin Feng expected, the next day was indeed very lively. However, the first to make a fuss were none other than Xiao Budian and Tunton. Didn't you say there was a Zhu Yuha? Why can't I see one? Xiao Budian complained while roasting a piece of snake meat on the fire. It was the jade cloud horned snake they had caught earlier. Tunton curled his lips. I caught it outside. Now that it's on the cloud traversing peak, there must be a special place for it to be raised. The cloud traversing peak is such a big place. I don't know where it is exactly. She also grabbed a small branch and roasted the snake meat. She muttered, Your way of eating is so troublesome. I used to swallow it in one gulp. That's because you're stupid. You don't know how to enjoy good food. It's a waste no matter how much you eat. Xiao Budian said without raising his head. Seeing that the snake meat in his hand was done, he hurriedly raised it in front of Lin Feng with a flattering expression. Master, try it first. Lin Feng looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. "Oh, why did you think of showing filial piety to your master today? Didn't you always take care of yourself first in the past?" Xiao Budian's skin was also thick. Hearing this, he giggled. The things in the past weren't good enough. Today's jade cloud-horned snake smells really good. Lin Feng took the snake meat and said with a smile, "All right, what do you want to do? Say it." "Master, you really understand me." Xiao Budian scratched the back of his head and said with a smile, "Master, can you ask the people from the Celerita sword sect where they raise their Zhu Yuha?" Lin Feng said, "Can't you ask yourself?" "I've already asked." Saying this, Xiao Budian glared at Tunton in dissatisfaction. But this guy exposed himself. They know he's a Taotai and won't tell me the location of the Zhu Yuha no matter what. Hearing this, Tunton curled his lips and didn't say anything. Clearly, he was also very regretful. I originally thought that alerting the enemy was also good. Secretly following them, they might go see if there's a problem with the Zhu Yuha, or move the Zhu Yuha from its original location to hide in another location. Xiao Budian said in annoyance, "Who knew that this Celerita sword sect has an expert who can really keep his cool? I squatted for half a day and still couldn't find the specific place where they raised the Zhu Yuha." At the side, Xiao Yan and Yu Hongyan, as well as Jieyu, couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Yan patted Xiao Budian's shoulder. "You glutton, you're just stubborn enough and smart enough when it comes to eating." Yu Hongyan glanced at Lin Feng. "Since you guys have already been exposed, even if Master goes to ask, I'm afraid it wouldn't be too good." Xiao Budian smiled and said, "Fourth senior sister, words can't be said like this. They can refuse to tell me, but if Master says that he wants to see the Zhu Yuha, the Celerita sword sect can't give him face." Yu Hongyan smiled. She naturally knew that if Lin Feng opened his mouth to ask, the Celerita sword sect would definitely have to answer, but wouldn't that sweep Lin Feng into the ranks of foodies? Xiao Budian actually also understood this logic, so he looked at Lin Feng rather embarrassedly. Lin Feng lightly smiled, poking the little guy's forehead. "No need for Master to say, you also don't need to be anxious. Before long, the Celerita's sword sect will take the initiative to deliver themselves to our doorstep." Xiao Budian's eyes lit up. Just at this time, a voice suddenly sounded out from outside the cave. "Celerita's sword sect disciple Zhao Yan has specially come to pay a visit to the junior brothers of Xianmen Tianzong." Xiao Yan and the others glanced at each other, all somewhat baffled. Looking at Lin Feng indifferently said, "Aren't they here?" "Master, who is this person?" Xiao Budian's eyes swiveled around. Thinking about it, he knew that it was impossible for the Celerita's sword sect disciples to take the initiative to send the Zhu Yuha for him to eat. After Yu Hongyan carefully recalled for a bit, he said, "Zhao Yan, I have an impression of this name. He seems to be the most outstanding genius of the Celerita's sword sect's younger generation disciples. A little over 100 years old and already at the late stage of the golden elixir stage. Everyone is optimistic that he will form the Yuanying stage within 100 years, and is quite famous in the entire divine land." Xiao Yan's gaze flashed, looking at Lin Feng. "Master, this guy is here to look for trouble?" Lin Feng casually said, "Celerita's sword venerable should disdain to do this kind of petty action. It might be the idea of the Yuanying stage elders in the Celerita's sword sect." Xiao Yan chuckled, saying to Xiao Budian and Yu Hongyan, "Since he came to our doorstep, then let's welcome him together." Chapter 248. Lin Feng sat upright in the cave and did not move, but his attention still fell on Xiao Yan and the others. Looking at the high-spirited Xiao Yan who did not lose his cool and calm, Lin Feng sighed endlessly in his heart. 3 years of hard work, 3 years of waiting, 3 years of perseverance. It could be said that it was all for this trip to the cloud-traversing peak. This will be the first battle where Xiao Yan officially steps onto the path of legend. Lin Feng clearly saw through the Celerita's sword sect's thoughts. It was nothing more than wanting to use their own genius disciples to first test Xiao Yan's drive and morale. But in Lin Feng's view, this is nothing more than feudal self-righteousness. Xianmen Tianzong disciples, invincible in the same realm, this is not a gimmick and slogan that he came up with. Lin Feng looked at Zhao Yan and the rest of the Celerita Sword Sect elites outside the cave, smiling somewhat maliciously. I hope the final result is not to beat you guys until you completely lose your confidence. The current Xiao Yan will not allow anyone to disturb the 3-year battle agreement between him and Murong Yenran. Even Crown Prince Chongyun cannot. In terms of status, that is the heir to the Qin dynasty. In terms of cultivation, that is a Yuanying stage cultivator. In terms of strength, he still has magic treasures to protect himself. But he cannot either. In front of the Chosen One's path of destiny, that is all trash. Even though he doesn't know exactly what Xiao Yan is thinking in his heart right now, Lin Feng somewhat mischievously made up an internal monologue for him. I've waited for 3 years just to wait for a chance. I want to fight for my honor, not to prove that I'm amazing. I want to tell people that the things that I lost, I will definitely get them back. It still fits your mood quite well, right? Some unscrupulous master thought as he watched Xiao Yan and the others walk up to Zhao Yan. Behind Zhao Yan also stood a few Celerita's Sword Sect sword cultivators. Their mana fluctuations are all late-stage golden elixir, and the golden elixir they formed are all purple elixir quality. Their ages are all not old. These people were obviously the Celerita's Sword Sect's most elite and also the most core group of disciples. If nothing unexpected happens with Murong Yenran's development trajectory, she also has the hope of becoming one of them in the future. This is also the reason why the Celerita's Sword Sect values her so much. This type of elite disciple with limitless potential was the current cornerstone and future pillar for every sect. Different from ordinary sword cultivators who show off their abilities, like unsheathed sharp swords filled with killing intent, the Celerita's Sword Sect's golden elixir period sword cultivators with Zhao Yan at the head have temperaments like faintly discernible clouds and mist, making people unable to grasp them. Facing Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian, even though he clearly knew that their strength could not be guessed with common sense, Zhao Yan was still calm and composed. This was his confidence as a core disciple of the Celerita's Sword Sect. With late-stage golden elixir strength, even facing an initial-stage Yuanying old ancestor, this was the source of his confidence. Junior apprentice brothers of Xianmen Tianzong, Celerita's Sword Sect's Zhao Yan greets you. Zhao Yan slightly smiled, cupping his hands towards the cave that Lin Feng was at. Greetings to the master of the profound gate, Senior Lin. We don't dare to disturb Senior. We absolutely have no other intentions coming here. We just want to exchange Dao techniques with the junior apprentice brothers of Xianmen Tianzong. We ask for Senior's permission. Lin Feng did not make a sound, seeming to tacitly agree. Xiao Yan, Xiao Budian and the others glanced at each other, the corners of their mouths all revealing a strange smile. Logically speaking, with Zhao Yan's late-stage golden elixir cultivation, over 100 years old, and having already studied in the Celerita's Sword Sect for over 100 years, arrogantly calling them junior apprentice brothers isn't too much. But falling into the ears of Xiao Yan and the others, no matter how they heard it, it felt ear-piercing. Xiao Yan indifferently said, I wonder how fellow Taoist Zhao wants to exchange? Hearing how Xiao Yan addressed him, Zhao Yan's eyes slightly narrowed. Although he still had a smile on his face, his tone also became less courteous. Earlier the rumors said that the junior apprentice brothers of Xianmen Tianzong are invincible in battle techniques at the same realm. I wonder if it's true or false? If I remember correctly, junior apprentice brother Xiao is Senior Lin's head disciple? Zhao Yan is untalented, but as the head disciple of the Celerita's Sword Sect's inner court, I want to exchange pointers with junior apprentice brother Xiao. Speaking up to here, Zhao Yan's aura gradually changed. The aura that was originally like misty clouds and mist suddenly became like an unsheathed sharp sword. Furthermore, it was far fiercer and sharper than other sword cultivators. The other Celerita's Sword Sect disciples behind Zhao Yan all had faint smiles on their faces, as if waiting to watch a good show. Their sharpness was not revealed at all, still like misty clouds and mist. Xiao Yan lightly laughed but didn't say anything. The little guy beside him giggled and took a step forward. A wave of fierce and vigorous mana aura immediately pressured over, forcibly blocking Zhao Yan's sword chi. Zhao Yan's gaze congealed, seeing the little guy say with a smile, Fellow Taoist Zhao wants to verify whether or not my Xianmen Tianzong disciples are invincible in battle techniques at the same realm. Then why does my head disciple need to make a move? I'll do it. He smiled and said, "Oh right, by the way, among my master's direct disciples, I'm ranked last." The smile on Zhao Yan's face disappeared, but he had no way of refusing to fight. Although the little guy had a smile on his face, his fierce mana had already firmly locked onto him. "I've long since thought that you guys would have people to help that Xiao Yan. Otherwise, why would we need so many people?" Zhao Yan laughed coldly in his heart. "Brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, I'll first let you know what it means by there's always someone better, there's always someone better." Zhao Yan's face was expressionless as he calmly said, "I ask this junior brother to give me some pointers." As he spoke, he was about to make a move, but unexpectedly the little guy suddenly shouted, "Wait a moment." Zhao Yan held his breath in his chest, and unhappily said, "What's wrong?" The little guy smiled and said, "Just competing is boring, it's better to have some sort of prize, right? How about this? I won't ask for much. If I win, you give me 2 vermilion feathered cranes." As he spoke, Tunton hurriedly pulled on the corner of his clothes from behind. The little guy reacted and immediately changed his words. For vermilion feathered cranes." Zhao Yan remembered that a junior brother told him about a Taotai sneaking into the mountains, and immediately didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Okay, then 4, but what if you lose? How could that be possible?" The little guy replied without hesitation. After Zhao Yan heard this, his face immediately darkened. The little guy looked at him and painfully shook his head. Forget it, if I lose I'll give this to you." As he spoke, he waved his hand and fished out a skewer of jade cloud horned snake meat from his storage pouch. Zhao Yan was completely speechless. I shouldn't have talked so much nonsense with this brat. He patted the sword sheath on his back and immediately a bright golden sword aura flew out, emitting a long cry as it streaked across the horizon, chopping down towards the little guy's head. The little guy stood where he was without dodging or dodging. He raised his little fist and immediately circle after circle of dazzling lightning spread out. The rumbling of thunder was deafening. Facing Zhao Yan's sword aura, the little guy did not use any techniques to meet the attack, nor did he use his own magic weapon. Instead he directly punched out, using his flesh and blood to meet the swift and fierce sword aura. The few Yuanying stage ancestors of the Celeritas sword sect were actually also secretly observing the battle situation. Seeing this scene, Ancestor Yun frowned. What an arrogant brat. The only female ancestor, Ancestor Qi Xia, slightly shook her head, but I have to admit that he has the capital. With Golden Elixir initial stage cultivation, his total magic power is stronger than Zhao Yan late stage Golden Elixir Zhao Yan. His flesh and blood body is even more extremely valiant. Now I believe what Qing Qi said. This child has the ability to contend against Yuanying initial stage cultivators. Ancestor Ziyun nodded his head, but wanting to win against Zhao Yan with this is still far from enough. Sure enough, Zhao Yan coldly laughed, his hand forming a sword sign, and the sword aura instantly changed. Lin Feng, who was watching the battle from within the cave, knew the changes in the field like the back of his hand. His gaze congealed and saw that when Zhao Yan's sword aura flew halfway and was about to be intercepted by the little guy, the originally golden light flashing sword aura actually transformed into a gray mist, making a turn in the air and already nimbly dodged the little guy's lightning fist. After dodging, the gray mist once again changed. The clouds suddenly emitted a faint light, as if the sky had always been overcast, and the dark clouds in the sky suddenly dispersed, revealing the sun. A little bit of sunlight from weak to strong slowly penetrated through. The golden sword aura reappeared and continued to cut straight towards the little guy's vital points. The sword aura and the clouds were incomparably skillful, without any feeling of jerkiness. This move of Zhao Yan's was extremely beautiful. Ancestor Qing Qi, who was watching the battle, praised, "Our Celerita sword sect's signature sword art, cloud-flowing light sword, Zhao Yan is using it more and more skillfully." Ancestor Ziyun had a smile on his face, obviously also very satisfied. Indeed got a taste, not bad, not bad. Zhao Yan's sword aura and the clouds switched back and forth, nimbly dodging the little guy's defensive key points. There was a bit of a performance and playfulness in it. This cloud-flowing light sword, with the same name as the Celerida's sword sect, was undoubtedly its signature sword art. Its power was really amazing. Lin Feng watched from the side for a moment and already saw the extraordinariness. Cloud-flowing light sword. After comprehending the true meaning of light and dark intertwining, cloud-flowing light, cultivators could practice sword aura, and the sword aura could be interchangeable with the cloud-like sword chi, creating reality and illusion. Although the sword aura was strong and indestructible, once it was released, it was a straight line. The direction could not be changed. Although the speed was so fast that people could not react, there were still traces to be found. But if it could be combined with the sword chi that lingered and changed like clouds and mist, sometimes clouds and sometimes sword aura, then it would be mysterious and ruthless, giving people a huge headache. Light and dark intertwined, the light was bright, the clouds were dark, the light clouds were modeled and changed, real and fake, making people unable to grasp it. You see it as a sword aura. You dodge it, it turns into clouds and mist, it changes direction, aiming at you, it turns into sword aura again. Lin Feng secretly nodded. This sword art of the Celerida's sword sect could be said to be very sinister in its intention, but it could also be said to be very practical. Using a common saying, it is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. What is released is sword chi, disrupting the opponent's judgment of your attack speed and power. The killing move is already in front of you, suddenly becoming sword aura, the speed abruptly becoming 10 times, 100 times faster, immediately piercing a transparent hole in the opponent who could not react in time. A Celerida's sword sect disciple saw that Zhao Yan had the upper hand and was suppressing the little guy, so he smiled at Zhao Yan and said, "Senior brother Zhao will accompany that junior brother to play, then let me spar with you junior brother Xiao." Zhao Yan lightly laughed. "What's the hurry? It's going to end soon." The other's expression slightly changed. Turning his head to look, he saw that the battle between the little guy and Zhao Yan had suddenly changed. Chapter 249. Zhao Yan displayed all the changes of the flowing cloud sword to the extreme, like a bullfighter using a red cloth to tease a bull, toying with the little guy. The carefree feeling made Zhao Yan feel as if his entire heart was at ease, and he had vented out a mouthful of resentment from before. The only thing that made him a little unhappy was that the little guy's expression was always calm, without the slightest hint of impatience. Instead, he looked at Zhao Yan's sword light switching back and forth between the clouds with interest. It felt as if he was catching a butterfly that was fluttering back and forth. This discovery made Zhao Yan's mood very bad, but it also made him secretly vigilant. Sure enough, after a while, the little guy smiled and shook his head. "I'm not going to play with you anymore." Both of his fists suddenly collided, and layers of thunder and lightning with his body as the center unceasingly expanded in all directions like a tide. Regarding Zhao Yan's unpredictable sword light, it was not that the little guy did not have the ability to capture it, but he was too lazy to tangle with Zhao Yan. He used the stupidest, but also the most direct and effective method. Using a large area of effect attack to sweep the entire field would only consume a little more magic power. However, no matter how good you are at hiding, you will still be caught by me. Zhao Yan raised his eyebrows and lightly said, "Does this junior brother think that I'm an early golden elixir cultivator like you?" While speaking, Zhao Yan pinched a sword art, and the light and mist in the surrounding space gathered on his sword light. The sword light suddenly became a lot more powerful, and the form of the light and mist constantly changed, showing off its sharpness. His sword light forcibly withstood the thunder and lightning of the little guy. Both sides collided, and the light and mist constantly annihilated each other. The little guy giggled, and his body stirred up a strong hurricane. The wind and thunder fused, and his power began to increase. After he successfully formed his core and advanced to the golden elixir period, the power of the unlimited wind and thunder technique also increased. To be precise, the power of the unlimited wind and thunder could always be increased without limit, but as the power increased, it would be beyond the little guy's control. After the little guy advanced to the golden elixir period, he had the ability to control an even stronger power of wind and thunder. After the power of the unlimited wind and thunder was further increased, he could stop the transformation fusion and continue to increase his power. Surging wind and thunder swept through the entire area, directly pushing back Xiao Yan's misty sword light. But that wasn't the end. The golden elixir of the ninth orifice of the Xiantian realm began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, increasing the power of his wind and lightning. The Celeritas Sword School's Great Mountain Protecting Formation, the Cloudy Sky Celeritas Sword Formation, that was laid on top of the Cloud Traveling Peak, all reacted because of this. Layer upon layer of light mist rolled, pressing towards the little guy. Ancestor Violet Cloud frowned, raising his hand to stop the movement of the Cloudy Sky Streamlight Sword Formation. If it really moved, Xiao Budian would certainly not be able to resist, and the Streamlight Sword Sect's face would also be completely lost. Such a powerful force of wind and thunder. At least in terms of the total amount of Dharma power, he does have the strength to fight with a practitioner at the Yuanying stage. Ancestor Qixia looked solemn. He glanced at Ancestor Qingwei and said nothing. She is a middle-stage Yuanying cultivator, so she is not afraid of Tiny Tot at all. However, Ancestor Qingwei, an early-stage Yuanying cultivator, can already feel the pressure brought by Tiny Tot. Ancestor Qingwei also looked solemn. He witnessed the battle between Tiny Tot and Yu Feng with his own eyes, so how could he not know? It's just that every time he really sees this scene, he still feels shocked. Ancestor Violet Cloud slowly said, according to junior brother Qingwei, that Xiao Yan's strength is not below this kid's. What I'm worried about now is, after they form their nascent soul, how terrifying will it be? Ancestor Qixia and Ancestor Qingwei's expressions all changed greatly. Looking at Xiao Yan and Tiny Tot, after a long time, they all let out a sigh. Sometimes, don't think too much, on the contrary, it's better to be happy. Several Yuanying ancestors' gazes all turned towards the cave where Lin Feng was. There was no movement at all, but just its existence made Ancestor Violet Cloud and the others feel a kind of suffocating feeling. To be able to teach such a disciple, the master of the mysterious gate, is really terrifying. Facing the pressure brought by Tiny Tot's infinite wind and thunder, Xiao Yan's face was as calm as water. His golden elixir is definitely strange. Otherwise, it's impossible to have such powerful magic power. Feeling that Tiny Tot's infinite wind and thunder power was still increasing, Xiao Yan didn't dare to wait any longer. He raised his hand and shot out a golden talisman. Heavenly Talisman Sword Seal, a magic tool of the Yuanying period, could repeatedly store a large amount of powerful sword intent that could only be released by the Yuanying period cultivators, and it was Xiao Yan's trump card. This golden talisman-like magic tool emitted a powerful sword intent and sword chi, shaking the space wave after wave, forcibly suppressing Tiny Tot's infinite wind and thunder. Hazy cloud transformation, thousands of blades. Xiao Yan shouted in a low voice. The heavenly symbol sword imprint sword intent had already fused with his own sword chi and sword light. It transformed into a vast and dense sword chi that seemed to fill up the entire space. It shot towards the little guy like a torrential storm. Tiny Tot was not afraid at all. He laughed and stamped on the ground with his right foot. The infinite wind and thunder power was no longer released, but all gathered in his body. Physical body divine ability, heavenly wind and thunder movement. Berserk wind and thunder enveloped Tiny Tot's body, and one could see his figure continuously growing. He was less than 6 feet tall, but in the blink of an eye, he became a 2 to 3 zhang tall giant. He was as terrifying as a demon god descending into this world. The lightning and wind blades seemed to transform into armor on his body. He spread out his 2 arms, and the berserk power of his blood and chi completely shook away Xiao Yan's torrential sword chi. Such a terrifying physical strength. Even the dragon race is nothing more than this, right? Xiao Yan clenched his teeth. I want to see just how strong you are. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan's hazy cloud transformation, thousands of blades, sword art had already transformed into the flowing cloud sword's strongest attack, cloud galloping lightning, who dares to contend with? Zhao Yan's body merged with the sword and soared into the sky. He merged with the sword chi that filled the sky and transformed into a streak of brilliant sword light. He completely abandoned the ever-changing characteristics of the clouds and only used the purest killing power and attack power. With a power that could cut the heavens and split the earth, he chopped down on Tiny Tot's 30 zhang tall demonic god of wind and thunder body. The heavenly talisman sword seals sword chi and sword intent were all added to Zhao Yan's sword, allowing him to directly pierce through space. He instantly disappeared from his original location, and at the same time, he already killed his way in front of Tiny Tot. With such a ferocious sword, even the Yuanying ancestor would have to carefully deal with it. If he was truly stabbed, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. Tiny Tot was completely fearless. The demonic god of wind and thunder body opened and closed his mouth, emitting a thunderous laughter. You're not the only one with a Yuanying realm artifact. Cyan light suddenly flashed on his body, and he disappeared in an instant. Zhao Yan was shocked and immediately remembered that the Qingwei ancestor once mentioned that Lin Feng once gave Tiny Tot a small bronze cauldron that could travel through space. That small cauldron was also a Yuanying realm artifact. It was precisely with this cauldron that Tiny Tot was able to fight with the Yuanying ancestor Yu Wanfeng. However, hearing about it and actually seeing it were two completely different things. Only now did he truly know how difficult it was to deal with Tiny Tot's bronze cauldron. It was a special artifact that was condensed with the mysterious power of space. Tiny Tot's figure flickered in the void, and it was even more strange and unpredictable than Zhao Yan's sword light. The iron fist wrapped in wind and thunder bombarded the side of Zhao Yan's sword light again and again. Tiny Tot never confronted the sword light head-on, avoiding its sharpness and focusing on attacking the flank. Zhao Yan's sword light was on the verge of collapse. Zhao Yan sighed in a low voice. Clouds cover the fog, wind and rain obscure. The majestic sword light, like a rainbow piercing through the sun, suddenly disappeared, and all turned into a heavy misty sword aura. Moreover, it gathered into a ball, wrapping Zhao Yan in the center. The thick clouds blocked Tiny Tot's iron fist. The fierce attack bombarded on the cloud, but the cloud only trembled a little. Some of the defeated sword aura retreated but did not disperse. Soon, it merged into the cloud again, and continued to resist Tiny Tot's storm-like attack. When Lin Feng, who had been watching the battle, saw this scene, his face showed a smile. Just now, the move, clouds and lightning fast, who can compete with me, could be called the ultimate killing move with the strongest attack power of the flowing light sword. The aura was like a rainbow that could destroy everything. And now, the move, clouds cover the fog, wind and rain obscure, was the strongest defensive move of the flowing light sword. It completely abandoned the attack power of the sword light, and all the sword aura was used to protect oneself. It was just that if this stalemate continued for a long time, Tiny Tot would have an advantage. After all, he was the attacker and had the initiative. If Zhao Yan, who was trying his best to defend, was even slightly careless and revealed a slight flaw in his defense, then he would be defeated. Victory and defeat have been decided. Lin Feng faintly smiled. On the other side, Ancestors Yun and the others also sighed together. At the side of the field, Xiao Yan smiled and looked at the group of Celerita's sword sect disciples beside him. I said before, it will be over very soon. The group of Celerita's sword sect disciples all had serious expressions, watching Tiny Tot surround Zhao Yan and beat him up. His attacks became more and more fierce, and the cloud that Zhao Yan used to defend to the death was already showing signs of collapsing. Xiao Yan smiled, his gaze looking to the other side. How much longer do you want to watch for? The void broke open, and a gloomy and overbearing Crown Prince Chongyun slowly walked out. Including Wang Jiannan, a group of golden elixir period cultivators followed behind him. Crown Prince Chongyun looked at Tiny Tot, who was in the middle of the battle, and did not say anything. He did not want to personally take action, but among the group of golden elixir period cultivators behind him, none of them could fight against Tiny Tot. This made him feel a little embarrassed. Xianmen Tianzong disciples were known to be invincible in fights of the same realm. With his Yuanying stage cultivation, even if he won it would not be worth mentioning. Crown Prince Chongyun did not make a move for the time being, but there were already people who had their eyes on him. Lin Feng silently looked at Crown Prince Chongyun, calculating in his heart for a moment. What is Wu Qingru planning? Maybe I can use him to test the waters. Thinking of this, Lin Feng transmitted his voice to Yu Hongyan. Hongyan, directly challenged that Wang Jianan. Whether or not you want to keep him alive, you decide for yourself. Hearing this, Yu Hongyan's pupils faintly flickered. Without hesitation, he immediately took a step forward, waving his 12-meter-long black flame halberd, pointing it straight at Wang Jianan. Crown Prince Chongyun's eyes narrowed, the group of golden elixir period cultivators behind him all went into an uproar. A group of Celerita's sword sect disciples all looked at Yu Hongyan in surprise. The red-haired girl did not say anything, only her pair of thin sword-like eyebrows slightly raised. Her meaning was already very clear. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.